Chapter 1386. People finally understood what he was doing. He was unveiling the dusty veil of history to explore the secrets of this place. It was something that had happened in the past. People saw the sky of the young world broken with bloody holes. Some creatures had chased after them to this place. The legendary creatures in the high sky? Are they the legends of the lost period of history? The missing 108 incipient God realm experts? At this moment, the leaders of the Buddha clan and the Tao clan screamed in fear. Apparently, they knew some fragments of the old history. The blood-stained sky and the sky filled with bloody holes were all very similar to one of the records. In the Lost Era, in the prehistoric era, there was a rumor that 108 incipient God realm experts had descended. Some of them were the real bodies of the 10 great evil worms. That kind of fighting competence was unimaginable. Each of them had the power to open the sky. However, they had disappeared without a trace. Whether they were alive or dead was a mystery. Now, people knew where they had gone. They had gone to chase after that woman in white. Within the bloody light and the raging crimson lightning, the woman in white turned around. With a bang, a corner of her sleeve was torn off and suppressed behind her. And then, there was no more. 108 incipient God realm experts fell on this short mountain. Of course, the broken sleeve of the Empress in white was also stained with blood. It fell and hung on this place. Did she bleed herself? This scene was too shocking. Everybody was astounded. Was this the ending of a prehistoric case? The white mist scattered on the short mountain. The peerless woman was nowhere to be seen. There was only a corner of her blood-stained sleeve, fluttering in the wind and hanging in the air. It was just a corner of her sleeve, and underneath it was a pile of dried bones. Counting carefully, there were 108 of them. You guys have big guts. You dare to touch this place. Even if a great universe realm expert came, he wouldn't dare to provoke you. Even if an ultimate expert came, he would have to retreat. The green-haired Minotaur finally opened his mouth. People could see that his lips were trembling. Then, he flashed and disappeared. Chu Feng's face was pale, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. He also felt that he had been a bit rash, but it was still under control. However, he knew how dangerous it was. That sleeve had killed 108 incipient God realm experts. It had created a balance in this area. If he broke it carelessly, it would be the end of the world. Although the short mountain did not look like much now, once the aura of that place leaked out, even an almighty being would be instantly killed. The blood on his sleeve indicated something. The skeletons of the 108 incipient God realm experts were strange. Perhaps they were still alive. Right now, that place's aura was hibernating under the short mountain's earth veins, extremely balanced, not erupting. Soon, Chu Feng also realized that this place was too strange. The white-clothed woman had left from here, and there was a special path ahead. It was even to the extent that Chu Feng's first thought was that the master of this land, the flame essence of the supreme terrain, wanted to borrow the strength of a domain master to help his race. This might be related to this. The cosmic grade fruit or the special treasures were all wrong. Perhaps the deepest area of the supreme terrain had something to do with the white-clothed woman. For the time being, although Chu Feng was tired, he was also excited. He wanted to see if he could meet the Empress that the giant black beast had always been thinking about. Chu Feng was really tired. He had just triggered the resonance of this area to reveal the truth of the short mountain. It had consumed a lot of his spirit, chi, and soul. This kind of domain technique couldn't be used easily. He panted and slowly loosened his grip. The bronze chunk fell on the ground, and the celestial immortal tribe woman took it back. Boom! The short mountain was restored to its original state. The white mist covered it again. The truth disappeared. The torrential blood rain and the sky that looked like a bloody hole were all gone. The world returned to its original state. Chu Feng's body shook, and he had to take several steps backward. Everyone felt their blood run cold and were a bit apprehensive. Not only did Chu Feng think of many things, but they also realized that there were unimaginable things in the depths of the Taishang terrain. It was definitely not as simple as they had previously thought. The woman from the celestial immortal island had naturally guessed many things. She believed that the evolved being she was looking for, the white-clothed woman, was most likely in the depths of the supreme terrain. There was a special path here, and they had to follow it. Immediately, she rushed forward and personally supported Chu Feng. Her whole body lit up as she poured the purest and most intense energy into Chu Feng. "Celestial Master Zhou, are you all right?" she asked in a soft voice filled with concern. Chu Feng naturally wasn't a celestial master yet. After all, he was still half a step away. However, the celestial immortal tribes, Xing Yuxian, addressed him respectfully as a sign of closeness and goodwill. She really wanted to use his methods to advance and believed in his strength. Many people revealed odd expressions. They had long since realized how useful a domain genius was in this area. The people from the Evil Spirit Island were trying to rope him in. "It's fine." Chu Feng shook his head. He had almost become a celestial master. Although he was exhausted, he could quickly replenish his needs in this special terrain. His feet seemed to have taken root in the ground as he rapidly absorbed the goblins and large amounts of special energy to restore himself to his peak state. However, the people from the celestial immortal tribe were too cordial and humble. Xing Yuxian signaled for Jiang Luoshan to go forward and help Chu Feng wipe his sweat. This was simply too courteous. Apparently, Jiang Luoshan couldn't really help a stranger wipe his sweat. Although he seemed familiar and didn't seem bad, she couldn't lower herself like this. She only made a gesture and walked forward agilely. Immediately, a sweet fragrance wafted through the air. Xing Yuxian didn't force her. She was only saying it casually to show how much she valued and was polite to Chu Feng. However, this also caused the other races to have some ideas. Very soon, some powerful races spoke up, saying that it was better to work together and advance and retreat together. At first, Chu Feng refused and left everyone behind to go on his own. But now that he had discovered the short mountain, he realized that this place was too strange. It was better to temporarily work together. In truth, this was a group of bodyguards. The Buddhist race and Taoist race also joined in on the road to protect Chu Feng and ensure his advancement. Everyone had seen his methods with their own eyes. They really needed a domain heavenly master like him. Jiang Luoshan was very reserved, but Xing Yuxian couldn't stand it anymore. Along the way, she personally took out a silk handkerchief and handed it to Chu Feng to wipe his sweat. The fragrance assailed their nostrils and caused many powerful evolvers to stare blankly. In some people's eyes, this was the future master of the celestial immortal race. It was unimaginable that he would actually lower himself to such a low level. "Celestial Master Zhou, as long as you can send us in and through this special path, our celestial immortal race will reward you generously in the future. No matter what request you make, we will do our best in the future." Xing Yuxian transmitted her voice softly. Her quick-witted eyes contained strands of peculiar brilliance as she earnestly requested Chu Feng to do his best to help them find that person. In truth, Chu Feng himself wanted to go in and see if the white-robed empress mentioned by the giant black beast was still alive. He wanted to find everything related to her. Chapter 1387. Advance. This was everyone's choice. No one was willing to give up halfway since they had already come this far. Moreover, this place was actually related to the Empress. Chu Feng's emotions rose and fell like the surging waves under the moonlight. He had never imagined that the Empress mentioned by the giant black beast would appear here. Both sides will benefit. Some people spoke up one after the other. They valued Chu Feng's strength and hoped to borrow his domain methods to work together to ensure their safe arrival. Chu Feng didn't object this time because he was accompanied by a large group of people. The terrain in the depths of the Taishang terrain was extremely complex. Some areas were lush with vegetation and were accompanied by soaring flames. However, the vegetation didn't die and their leaves were still swaying. Magma flowed through their roots as they weren't afraid of the high temperature. Some areas were completely barren. For instance, the volcanoes in front of them were barren and filled with black smoke. It was a land devoid of life. The evolvers of all races were very cautious in such a place. They didn't dare to be careless because there was danger at every step. They had truly entered the danger zone of the Taishang terrain. Chu Feng observed carefully. He carefully tossed out some magnetic marrow blocks and searched for a safe path. Chi chi chi. Suddenly, all the volcanoes in the area came to life and emitted dazzling beams of light. Resplendent runes shot out from the volcanic craters and connected the sky and earth. This wasn't an ordinary eruption of volcanoes. Instead, the runes in the mountains and rivers were blossoming and shooting out violently from the volcanic craters. It was too dazzling and terrifying. The beams of light interweaved between the heaven and earth and spread out in all directions. It was like a large net of order that intercepted and killed everyone. This exceeded Chu Feng's expectations. This dangerous land was indeed full of dangers and variables. Lives could be lost at every turn. The beams of light shot out from the volcanic craters began to twist and link together. They covered the sky like a heavenly net that would kill all living beings. "What are you doing?" Someone berated Chu Feng, clearly dissatisfied with him. Chu Feng's forehead was drenched in sweat. He quickly retreated and reminded, "Retreat! Can you do it or not? Are you trying to kill us?" Someone was still shouting. Chu Feng was naturally angry after hearing this kind of berating. "Who told you to follow me? Am I begging you, or am I inviting you? There are so many paths, you can choose for yourself." Everyone displayed their respective abilities and flew back along their original path. They also brought out all kinds of special domain treasures. They had all come prepared, such as the heavenly ladder. Everyone was fleeing for their lives. The fiery red net in the sky was too terrifying. It carried bright red fiery light that covered the sky and covered the earth as it descended. One could see that some of the mountains were turning into ashes. Those who were slightly slower were also screaming miserably. Their arms were burnt, turning into black dust that floated in the air. There were even people whose armors melted, hissing and releasing a burnt smell. Chu Feng glanced back and rapidly utilized his secret domain technique. Magnetic essence pieces flew out continuously to temporarily cut off the flames and rescue those who had fallen behind. The net was mainly used for defense, only to cut off the path ahead. It didn't pursue or attack them, or else the consequences would be dire. Fortunately, no one died. Only 6 or 7 people were injured and charred black. However, the consequences wouldn't be too serious after taking some divine medicine. "You're doing this on purpose, aren't you?" At this moment, someone shouted. It was someone from the Yuan family who was looking for trouble with Chu Feng. Scram! Chu Feng only had one word. This time, he really didn't have a good temper. It was these people who had asked him to cooperate and travel together. In the end, they came looking for trouble and made him take responsibility for the slightest accident. Of course, the main reason was that the person speaking was someone from the Yuan family. They had killed all of Celestial Venerable Yushang's descendants and planted the mother metal in Yao Yao's grandfather's body. They were Chu Feng's mortal enemies. As such, he didn't have any good words. "You really don't know how to be respectful. When you speak, you'd better show some respect," someone from the Yuan family said coldly. He was an extremely powerful quasi-celestial venerable. At this moment, he was standing in front of Chu Feng. He was confident that his divine domain had already covered this area, so he wasn't afraid that the other party would suddenly use domains to kill him. At this moment, he was confident that he could kill any so-called heaven-subduing divine monarch. However, he simply didn't know that this was a great divine monarch who could rival a quasi-celestial venerable like him. The other experts naturally saw the problem. They were afraid of Zhou Jingde, but if they were to fight at such a close distance, this kind of domain expert would lose the initiative and would be directly suppressed by the other party. Dao brother, don't be impulsive. Harmony is the most important. Xing Yuxian from the overseas Evil Spirit Island spoke. She stood in front of the Yuan family expert and protected Chu Feng from behind. The Yuan family didn't act blindly without thinking. After all, who would dare to look down on the overseas Evil Spirit Island or the celestial immortal race? This was a terrifying foreign race comparable to the Buddhist race. Even though the Yuan family was extremely powerful and didn't fear the Buddhist race, they still didn't dare to rashly start a war with the strongest races in the Yang realm. Humph, you better be careful from now on, the leader of the Yuan family said coldly and swept his gaze over Chu Feng. Disappear immediately. Your race is not allowed to travel with me anymore. Chu Feng said coldly. He really wanted to attack, but if he revealed the power of a great divine monarch now, many people would be on guard. In the end, when they fought for the ultimate fortune, he would most likely be targeted by everyone and they would all attack him together. He didn't want to become the target of everyone's apprehension. Ha ha! The Yuan family expert sneered with an indescribable charm and endless murderous intent. He was almost about to attack. However, Xing Yuxian's slender body emitted a lustrous radiance and formed a barrier of light that blocked that person, preventing him from killing him. The Yuan family expert sneered with ridicule and then turned around, no longer walking shoulder to shoulder with them. However, they didn't completely leave. Instead, they followed from a distance. This way, if danger appeared in front of them, they could avoid it first. This was equivalent to letting the people in front explore the way. This caused many races to be moved. They gradually slowed down and lagged behind. The Shuyuan family followed from a distance, believing that this was safer. More than half of the evolvers at Chu Feng's side disappeared in an instant. He didn't care. He led the celestial immortal race and the Dao race around the active volcano region and carefully broke through the danger in the terrain. They found a safe path and sped up their advance. Ah! Someone screamed in the back. A divine monarch was struck by a thick flame and burned to ashes on the spot. He died a miserable death. Do you really think the domains in these mountains and rivers are fixed? Do you think it's enough just to see how we fall and keep up? Chu Feng glanced back and said expressionlessly. He didn't sympathize with those opportunistic people at all. The terrain of these mountains and rivers contained special runes that were constantly changing. He had probed all the places he passed through. Along the way, he produced large amounts of divine magnetic stones and magnetic pith in order to stabilize the path ahead. But after they passed, they would quickly lose their effectiveness and the mountains and rivers would once again become dangerous. Crack! A wave of flames streaked past and directly burned a mountain peak. It caused the heaven and earth to tremble violently and surged with a glaring domain rune. It enveloped several divine monarchs and caused their bodies and souls to be destroyed immediately. The expressions of those at the back changed. They had tried to take advantage of the situation, but in the end, they had made a mistake. Now it would be difficult to keep up with Chu Feng's footstep. Someone called out from behind, "Brother Zhou, Brother Jingde, slow down a bit. Please wait for us." Chu Feng ignored them and continued forward. At the same time, he became more and more careful. The path was extremely terrifying. He could see all kinds of faintly discernible domain runes flowing between the mountains and rivers. They could easily kill all living things in the world. Was this the path the Empress had taken? Chu Feng sighed. What had that woman left here? Where was she going in the end? Would he be able to see her soon? During this process, Jiang Luotian observed Chu Feng from time to time. She felt that he was very special and gave people a peculiar feeling. It was as if they had met before. It was just that she had never imagined that this was her best friend Xia Qianyu's matchmaking partner. He had also been entangled with her before. Splash! Raging waves crashed against the shore one after another. Up ahead there was a boundless ocean. Scarlet light engulfed the heaven and earth, and scorching waves of air rushed over. It was so hot that it almost set one's hair on fire. There was actually a sea in the depths of the forbidden land. However, it was scarlet in color and boiling hot. It was extremely bright and resplendent, as if red-hot molten iron was wreaking havoc. This was actually a sea of magma. However, it was definitely not ordinary magma because it was too scorching hot. It was enough to burn a divine king to death and destroy the Tao foundation of a celestial. This was a terrifying land of death. Moreover, scarlet golden runes blossomed within the sea. They were all terrifying domain patterns that had nurtured this place into a land of extinction. Everyone drew in a breath of cold air. From the outside, the topography of the supreme land didn't seem boundless, but after arriving here, it was as if they had entered a brand new world. Just how vast was this scarlet sea? How could they cross it? Many people sensed something. They had actually heard the sound of sacred scriptures. A virtuous senior monk. The people from the Buddhist race were immediately astonished. Some people's expressions changed. Regardless of whether they were from the Buddhist race or the great thunderous Buddhist race, they were all shocked. Everyone advanced toward a beach. Apart from the flames, there was also the sound of chanting on the special beach. A skeleton was sitting on the ground, chanting sutras. It was a strange entity. The monastic robe it wore was tattered and full of holes. It seemed as if it would turn to ashes with a casual touch. It was a Buddhist race member, and it was unknown whether it was male or female. Its flesh had long since withered for who knew how many years. There was only a layer of gray skin wrapped around its bones. Its entire body was like a fossil, motionless. However, it was making sounds. There were sound waves within its body, and the chanting of sutras continued. It actually didn't die. Only, it was unknown how long it had been sitting here. Even the ground was covered in ravines from the passage of time. Even the jade stone it was sitting on had sunken in deeply. It was as if it had existed with the world for several epochs. Heavens! At this time, the people from the Buddhist race actually began to tremble. Some people cried out in alarm, and there were even more people who widened their eyes in horror. They simply found it hard to believe as they stared at the old monk and its tattered monastic robe. Could that be the heaven-splitting monastic robe that has been missing for more than half an epoch, one of our race's supreme treasures? But why is it rotting? Who is this person? They were shaken. Some people shivered in fear. They vaguely guessed who the old monk in front of them was. He shouldn't be one of the heaven-splitting 6 elders, right? Among the Buddhist race's evolvers, some people's souls were trembling. Their soul light flickered, and at the same time, their blood was about to boil. Then, some people directly knelt down, prostrating themselves in worship towards that skeleton monk. It was as if they had been cursed. Every time they said they wanted to rise up, something would happen. This time, they hoped to break the curse. Third Sect Master. Chapter 1388. What the hell were the heaven-splitting 6 elders? Outside of the Buddha race, most of the others had stupefied expressions. They didn't understand what the Buddha race people were saying at all. They didn't understand their race's past at all. It was because the Buddha race had existed for too long, everlasting and inextinguishable. It was rumored that after who knew how many great eras, the world had died before and the cosmos had collapsed. However, the Buddha race made it through and reappeared in a new world. In this great era, the reason why my race was able to revive and reappear is all because of the heaven-splitting 6 elders. It was them who hacked open the Aether ancient temple's undying wall, breaking through the imperishable seal, allowing our flame seed, allowing our Buddha race's life form to reappear in this world full of vitality. Someone from the Buddha race was muttering in reverence and kowtowing. They piously knelt down towards that skeleton-like old monk and continuously prostrated themselves. Everyone was shocked. What were they hearing? However, the Tao race and Heng race's people understood. They could understand the true meaning behind this. It was because their races had existed for a similarly long time. They deeply understood some secret histories and guessed at the old monk's identity. One of the Buddha race's 6 great ancestors from the most ancient era. The Heng race's people said in a low voice. One of the Buddha race's most powerful old Buddhas actually appeared here. The Golden Body Tao race's people were stirred up, feeling incomparably shocked. These words revealed too much information. The others also knew what was going on. Did they encounter a final existence? One of the heaven-splitting 6 elders, one of the Buddha race's most ancient and powerful overlords, was actually overseeing the depths of the supreme terrain? If it wasn't for those 6 elders, the Buddha race would still be behind the undying wall and wouldn't be able to walk out from the Aether ancient temple. If that was the case, then there wouldn't be a so-called Buddha race in this great era. This toppled everyone's understanding. How did this danger zone become related to the Buddha race? In the distance, the Minotaur with a head full of thick green hair appeared again. He muttered to himself, "It's really strange. What's going on today? Why are all kinds of demons and ghosts reviving? That demonic monk is still alive." Then, he swayed his massive horns and directly ran, not daring to stay here for a long time. The Buddha race's people were too devout, kowtowing with almost every step. This included the great thunderous Buddhist race that had separated from their main race. "Greetings, Patriarch." A few people were calling out, their eyes carrying hot tears. They were stirred up, full of joy. They were actually able to see their clan's most powerful expert who had disappeared for a large half of a great era. The others were horrified. Just how strong was this old monk? At the very least, he should be at the great U level. However, no one from the Buddha clan responded to their calls. Even though they were moving forward as if they were on a pilgrimage, step by step, the skeleton monk didn't move. It was as steady as a fossil. Moreover, at this time, waves surged within the Scarlet Sea. Lightning streaked across, illuminating this place. The sound was deafening, and there was actually a strange fragrance wafting over. The old monk was chanting sutras. His entire body was vibrating with sound waves, but his mouth did not move. Crack! Lightning crisscrossed the sky. In the red ocean, a dazzling brilliance appeared. In the depths of the ocean, a strange plant appeared. It had a flower bud and was about to bloom. Ah, a strange flower. It might be an unimaginable pollen. Someone cried out in alarm. Pup! In the ocean, within that hazy sphere of light, a golden flower bud swayed gently. It was too divine, and at this moment, it began to bloom. A petal rose, wisps of mist pervading the air. Hiss! Only at this time did the old monk move. It opened its shriveled mouth, and breathed in heaven and earth's spiritual essence. The flower bud in the red ocean released a mist of pollen that quickly flew towards him. A strand was absorbed by him. At the same time, the ocean resonated. That flower bud was also resonating, releasing a great Tao sound that shook the entire terrain. Everyone sucked in a cold breath of air. This old monk had waited here for endless years just to absorb the pollen in that flower bud. What level was that? The group of people all trembled, their minds in disorder. Based on their speculations, the old monk was at least a great U-level monster. A flower bud that even he had to protect was definitely unimaginable. However, some people still saw through the abnormality. That skeleton monk wasn't a real person. After absorbing the pollen mist, it gradually revealed its original form. Moreover, quite a few people opened their heavenly eyes to carefully examine it, so they saw it even more clearly. This was only an energy void body. The real object was only a fingernail. It wasn't one of the complete heaven-splitting 6 elders from back then, but rather a damaged body. After the Buddha race's people saw the truth, they immediately burst into tears. Their wails resounded along the shore of magma. The others all secretly released a sigh of relief. They always felt that this kind of old monster shouldn't exist in this world. This was a bit more reasonable. Otherwise, if the flower bud that even this kind of monster protected came into being, just how terrifying of a matter would it be? They didn't dare imagine what level of flower it was. Almighty being. At this time, a quasi-heavenly deity spoke, finally confirming the old monk's strength. Even though it wasn't a great U-level creature, everyone was still indescribably shaken. It was because that was only a fingernail left behind by one of the heaven-splitting 6 elders. Together with a portion of energy, it already possessed the power of a great being? This stunned everyone. The Buddha race's 6 first ancestors were too terrifying. It made their hearts tremble. If he was still alive and unharmed, just how powerful would he be? Under the Buddha race's people's summons, as they chanted scriptures together, that old monk's spiritual consciousness actually wasn't muddled anymore. It gradually recovered a bit. Moreover, it began to speak, saying, "My life has already ended. I bitterly await the great sky's flame. Alas, there is no hope of rebirth. It was waiting here for the great sky's flame?" Everyone's fine hairs stood on end. There was this kind of thing in the supreme danger ground? Chu Feng was also greatly moved. He still remembered those words: bury the 4 extremes in the earth, cut the yin and yang firewood, draw upon the great sky's flame. Meanwhile, this old monk was actually waiting here for the great sky's flame, wishing to borrow its power to be reborn? In the end, the Buddha race's people stayed behind. They didn't go on their way immediately, instead discussing with that old monk in secret. Even though the old monk was muddle-headed and wasn't that clear-headed, he still produced an expanse of Buddhist light that covered the shore, turning that place into a pure land that no one could disturb. The others began to move. There was no way they would stay here for long. Chu Feng pondered for a bit at the shore. In the end, he laid out an astonishing domain. Then, it was as if muffled thunder erupted between heaven and earth, tearing apart the dusky sky dome. A floating bridge made of withered wood appeared. It automatically extended towards the opposite shore, crossing over the vast sea and connecting to the unknown shore. What kind of situation is this? The others were all stupefied. Black mist surged around the wooden bridge, and below it was a boundless sea of magma. The terrain of these mountains and rivers is too strange and terrifying. Even our minds have been deceived. We'll see the truth once we step onto it. Chu Feng spoke and was the first to move. When he stepped onto the floating bridge and suddenly rushed forward, the others also hurriedly followed. Before long, everyone was stunned. What did they see the moment they turned around? Where was the sea of magma from before? It was merely scarlet liquid accumulated in a ravine between 2 mountains. How could it be a sea? It was merely a small lake of magma. They crossed over just like that. The floating bridge was built between the 2 mountaintops, and they directly crossed it. It can even deceive the heavenly eye? Someone sighed. It might not necessarily be deceived. Standing at the shore of the magma just now, that is the sea. A grain of sand can form a world of its own, let alone the Buddha sea just now, said Chu Feng. While everyone was astonished, they couldn't help but nod. Just now, that place was indeed strange. It was like a real vast sea that was deducing a great world. We're here. Many people were excited. They pointed forward, seeing the ultimate destination. Immortal mist surged, full of vitality, fiery light flickered, flame cheilants hidden, vermilion birds dancing. Was that real? Or was it an irregular scene? However, they were sure that there were all types of great Tao symbols interweaving. Did all of us pass? Someone was incomparably happy. Chu Feng didn't say anything, only watching from the side. That is, the undying mountain my Tao clan has searched bitterly for. There might be a 9 transformations golden body flower there. The strange wasteland golden body Tao clan was the first to be shocked. Someone cried out in alarm. Their bloodline separated from the Tao clan precisely because their ancient ancestor accidentally ate the 9 transformations golden body flower, suddenly transcending himself and becoming powerful to the extreme. They chose to leave. The 9 transformations golden body flower was a great universe-level plant, difficult to find throughout the world. This level of strange fruit and pollen was hard to find even after many eras in the Yang realm. However, the strange wasteland Golden Body Dao clan was sure that there was another one undergoing rebirth in Undying Mountain. Everyone, goodbye. We will be leaving first. The people of the strange wasteland Golden Body Dao clan left, borrowing the clan's supreme treasure to head towards the so-called Undying Mountain. The ancestral artifact has reacted again. Everyone, we will also take our leave. Xing Yuxian of the Evil Spirit Island spoke, leading her clansmen and Jiang Luoshan in a certain direction. They activated their ancestral artifacts and crossed the void. The various races' evolvers entered the depths of the supreme terrain to refine themselves, but there were other reasons. We've also come. The Yuan clan's people were laughing. They actually had a way to enter this special region. It was clear that they had immeasurable treasures on them. Chu Feng was very calm, not a single ripple on his face. He knew that the true land of slaughter was about to revive. How could the supreme forbidden land tolerate the people of all races acting recklessly? Meanwhile, he was fearless. He wanted to obtain his own good fortune. Third Sect Master. Chapter 1389. What you see might not be true. What has disappeared might still exist. Chu Feng had a good impression of the people of the celestial immortal island. He secretly sent a message to remind them because this place was too evil and terrifying. If they weren't careful, they would be consigned to eternal damnation. Xing Yuxian looked back. Her white clothes were flawless and she was as beautiful as a fairy. However, at this moment, her smile was extremely charming and moving. Thank you. She nodded with a smile. She had a kind of extraordinary confidence as she led her clansmen forward. Jiang Luoshan also turned her head and looked at Chu Feng in surprise. She felt that this person was a bit different. He was like the returning swallow that she had met before. There was something familiar about him. After experiencing the danger last time and seeing the white-clothed Empress suppress 108 incipient God Realm experts with a single sleeve, the celestial immortal tribe was prepared. This time, Xing Yuxian opened a special jade jar. Inside was a drop of extremely mysterious blood that was flowing with fragrance. That blood was too special. It was like a flower in full bloom, like the sound of an ancient temple, like a wisp of green vitality floating in a desolate desert, or like the fragrance of time. It was condensed and fixed there. It was sacred and gorgeous. At this moment it bloomed. The entire world trembled and all forces had to bow down and worship it. And that was just a drop of blood. Everyone who saw this scene was indescribably shaken. Looking at it, it was as if they were looking at an era, a golden age, a glorious period of prosperity and history. Who was that? Many people couldn't help but kneel. They couldn't bear it and couldn't resist it. Their bodies betrayed their souls and kowtowed to the drop of blood. Then, their god souls also submitted and gradually became sincere in their worship. The people of the celestial immortal tribe did the same. It was as if they were offering sacrifices to the heavens or to an ancestor's soul. All of them prayed devoutly and silently kowtowed, as if they were on a pilgrimage. During this process, Xing Yuxian had already sprinkled that special drop of blood on the ancestral artifact. It dyed the bronze piece until it was sparkling and translucent. It revived and breathed on its own. That's right. The bronze piece seemed to have life and was breathing. It was like a brand new entity. The bronze pores all over its body opened and resonated with the world. In that instant, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, streaking across the void. It became more and more sparkling and resplendent, as if it was undergoing a life transition. It emitted a hazy glow that enveloped all the people from heavenly immortal island within it. It was as if it had formed an immortal country, a Buddhist land, and a Tao world of its own. It was multicolored and bizarre. Whose blood was that? Could it belong to the white-robed Empress? In the blink of an eye, many of the people in the back felt their mouths go dry, and were trembling. At the same time, they found themselves kneeling on the ground. It was only after Xing Yuxian and the others left that they were able to struggle to their feet. Impossible. That type of existence wouldn't leave behind blood. As long as he is still alive with a single thought, he will be able to sense it. Even if he is millions and millions of li away, not belonging to this civilization's branch path, he can still return. At this moment, someone spoke. Even Dao Clan's people couldn't help but feel great shock. Unless she's already dead and no longer in this world. This was the Yuan Clan's people who spoke. They also arrived here. Previously, they were looking coldly at Chu Feng, but now they were paying attention to Heavenly Immortal Clan. However, as soon as their words fell, an expanse of blazing radiance appeared in the void. It was like a lightning cauldron, and with a loud rumble, it exploded. That was natural law, that was order. Unmatched great Tao symbols extended here, shaking everyone until their hearts were in chaos. Their blood surged, and their bodies almost exploded. What is that? The Yuan clan and other powerful clans trembled inwardly, their courage shaking. Was this a prophecy? Did it touch upon a taboo that was separated by countless eras? Many people were scared to the point of not daring to say anything else. At the same time, the entire Heavenly Immortal clan that was about to disappear into the mountains cried out in alarm. That ancestral artifact shone, brilliantly colored. The bronze piece shone with bloody radiance, reflecting endless life force. At the same time, a certain broken scene appeared, recreating a corner of a golden age. There was a white-clothed woman walking through the endless starry seas, treading over the endless shattered earth, collecting a creature's aura, condensing a drop of his blood. That blood was extremely special, carrying a divine radiance within it. It condensed from the ancient past, appearing once again from the vanished past, flowing out from the dried-up wasteland. However, even with her boundless might, even after drawing out all of space-time, exhausting the passage of time and accumulating the highest level of energy, she was only able to produce a drop of special blood that glowed with a certain life aura. It wasn't Buddha blood, immortal blood, or fiend blood. Perhaps it wasn't truly powerful to the extreme. However, the most important thing was that it condensed a bit of that white-clothed woman's entrustment. That was why it was so terrifying, so world-shocking. That drop of blood gradually condensed, resonating with the bronze piece, about to form a face. That place immediately became indistinct, hazy, and couldn't be looked at directly. Forget about others, even Chu Feng was shocked. He opened his fiery eyes to investigate, wishing to see what was going on, but in the end, he failed. To make the fiery eyes fail, this was extremely rare. It couldn't be done unless one was at the peak of the world, and the white-clothed woman's methods could naturally reach this level. Relying on a type of feeling, relying on a type of instinct, Chu Feng still felt that the indistinct face that hadn't appeared was a bit strange. It actually seemed familiar. At this moment, everyone sensed a certain emotion from the white-clothed woman, and they all resonated with her. Not Buddha, not immortal, not demon, only for a bit of longing in the mortal world. She had once searched for it, and even though she was supreme, there was still a knot in her heart, and there were also times when she was powerless. She also wanted to defy the heavens, but in the end she failed. At this time, Chu Feng realized that the bronze piece and blood were too strange. Entrusted with a strand of will, the celestial immortal race's people might truly be able to safely travel through the supreme terrain. Even he couldn't help but want to go over, trace the white-clothed woman, and see where exactly she was going. However, now that he had arrived at his final destination, he also wanted to enter the supreme furnace and make a trip. First, I need to refine my true self and improve myself. Then, I can rendezvous with the celestial immortal race. Chu Feng felt that even if the other party grasped a special blood and ancestral artifact, they most likely wouldn't be able to reach their goal in one go. For him, time was a bit pressing. Even though he was quite confident in this terrain, since the celestial immortal race could bring out such a mysterious artifact, Perhaps the Yuan race also had a backup plan. They might suddenly bring it out here and seize the natural luck. Thus, he didn't dare to be careless. He wanted to first achieve his own desires. Chu Feng lifted his foot and walked towards the undying furnace of the supreme terrain. Although it was called a furnace, it was actually a special underground cave. However, if one looked through it, they would see that it was indeed in the shape of a furnace. It was naturally formed, and its mysteries were endless. Dao friend, why are you fleeing like fish in a river? We're also coming. The Yuan race's people were laughing. They came from all directions to surround Chu Feng. Chu Feng's expression was calm. He knew that since the other party dared to charge at him, they must have a powerful backup plan. Otherwise, they wouldn't dare to be so brazen. As expected, the next moment, his scalp went numb. The other party had produced an artifact, the magnetic marrow magic bell. With a clang, special domain ripples surged out and cleared a part of the terrain. It suppressed all the domain patterns but also condensed into a wave of light which engulfed Chu Feng. This was a rare treasure, and an unimaginably powerful one. Even heavenly masters would find it difficult to refine it. It was refined from a complete magnetic marrow mountain. One had to know that in reality, even a fist-sized piece of magnetic marrow was a domain master's favorite, not to mention one as big as a mountain. Chu Feng was shaken. Where did the Yuan race get it? He didn't dare imagine it. He felt that things were getting troublesome, but the other party had only revealed it at this moment. Boom. However, it was precisely because the Yuan race had shaken the magnetic marrow magic bell that a change occurred in the distance. Xing Yuxian brought Jiang Luotian and the celestial race into a mountainous region. It was quite dilapidated with primordial ruins and ruins. At this moment, as the magnetic marrow magic bell rumbled, all the rocks and debris in the area floated up and floated in the air. Of course, the most terrifying thing was that the ruins seemed to have been ignited with a violent tremor. There was a golden line roaming about in the air, as if it were drawing something. In truth, the Tao was reviving. It was drawing out a bell and a cauldron and igniting them. At the same time, the bronze piece in Xing Yuxian's hand resonated with the blood and rose into the air with a boom. They suppressed everything. Everyone was shaken, especially Chu Feng. He had seen something. That bell was the Emperor's bell. It was the same weapon as the master of the Black Beast, the corpse of the man on top of the bell. It was the complete appearance of the bell. As for the origin energy cauldron, there was no need to talk about it. It was the same weapon as the heavenly venerable Yushang's ancestor. The area trembled and rumbled continuously. The ruins on the ground swayed, and all kinds of mountain rocks tumbled down. The rubble was cleared away to reveal an extremely large and damaged ancient domain. Rebirth domain. Who's reviving? Chu Feng immediately determined the nature of the domain and was shocked. This matter was too strange. All kinds of broken walls flew up from the ruins and metal debris rushed into the air. That area had been cleared out and revealed. Time lingered about and spatial flowers bloomed. That area was too bizarre. It was like an immortal land, an eternal holy land that had created a rebirth lair. The most important thing was that there was a path in that domain. It extended forward as if it was connected to the heavens. The path was covered in blood. We've arrived. It's here. Xing Yuxian was trembling in excitement. Their race's ancestral weapon was trembling. The blood was almost burning as it formed a face. That domain was too vast and grand. It actually possessed a power that not even the entire universe could contain. It was as if it could contain millions and millions of starry seas. A person seemed extremely insignificant in that terrain. What kind of place was that? The bell of the big black dog's master had actually appeared. Was that the trace he had left behind here in the past? It condensed great Tao patterns that hadn't been extinguished even after hundreds of worlds and tens of thousands of tribulations. It once again burned the ripples of order. There was also that cauldron. Its great Tao patterns actually appeared here. Obviously, their master and the white-clothed woman had come here back then. There was a supreme rebirth domain there. Was there someone buried below? Who was it that wanted to revive here? Moreover, where did that special path lead to? Chapter 1390. Chu Feng turned into a streak of light and rushed out of the danger zone. It was precisely because the bell and cauldron were ringing that he was able to break out of the encirclement. Then, his eyes revealed boundless cold killing intent as he stared at the Yuan clan's people. Previously, in order to keep a low profile and avoid being targeted, he didn't attack the Yuan clan's people. Who would have thought that they would act first to kill him? Boom! The Yuan clan's people took action again. They controlled the magnetic essence magical bell and blasted it over. Domain symbols covered the sky as if they were going to pierce through heaven and earth. After leaving that range, Chu Feng was like a fish in water. Symbols appeared beneath his feet as if he had crossed through a starry sky. He directly entered the ultimate region of the magnetic essence magical bell to reach the immortal furnace. He avoided it, but in that region, a certain powerful clan suffered a calamity. Several divine kings didn't even have the chance to cry out miserably before being struck by the magnetic essence magical bell. Their bodies and souls were destroyed, not even leaving behind dregs. One could well imagine how formidable a precious treasure refined from a grand magnetic marrow mountain was. It was extraordinary, and it shook the world. Of course, the reason it could display its might was because this mountain range was special. The more terrifying the domain, the more powerful it would be. It was borrowing the might of the world. The clan that suffered a calamity, was furious. They were filled with endless resentment. The Yuan clan's murderous intent was too great. They actually killed their rising star. Dao friend, I'm sorry. What happened just now was an accident. Everything was caused by Zhou Jingda's actions. The Yuan clan's people apologized. You think a single sentence is enough? My clan's elite is dead. The clan's elder angrily shouted. What do you think we should do? The Yuan clan's quasi-emperor smiled. He suddenly walked up and personally took action, shaking the magnetic essence magical bell again. Boom! The opposing elder quickly retreated. He wanted to tear open space and escape, but he couldn't dodge at all. He was frozen in place, and then his body was torn apart. He was slaughtered miserably, blood splashing everywhere as his soul scattered. Everyone was shocked. The Yuan clan's people were too tyrannical. They were vicious and merciless, directly killing everyone from that clan. They didn't listen to reason at all. Since we've become enemies and the enmity can't be resolved, then we might as well kill them all. This was what the Yuan clan's quasi-emperor said. Bang! Almost at the same time, Chu Feng took action. Light sparkled under his feet. A beam of light more dazzling than lightning shot out from the mountain and hit a disciple of the Yuan clan. He exploded on the spot, and his blood and bones flew everywhere. This was using the terrain to kill someone, and the person he killed was a divine king. This was terrifying. He could kill an elite disciple of the Yuan family from such a long distance. The quasi-emperor of the Yuan race, was enraged. He had been slightly careless, allowing him to use the magic bell to kill people. Zhou Jingda had seized the chance to kill a young god king of his race. In the next moment, he shook the magnetic marrow magic bell, and the gentle sound waves enveloped all of the clan disciples, protecting them. Then, they all rushed toward Chu Feng. Furthermore, the sound waves were terrifying. They were like lightning bolts, one after another. They actually transformed into electricity and shot straight at Chu Feng. This caused a certain amount of trouble for Chu Feng. He turned around and left, preparing to enter the supreme immortal furnace and launch an attack there. As long as he destroyed the magnetic marrow magical bell, he would start a massacre. It didn't matter even if he exposed his identity and strength as the great divine lord. Boom! The people of the Yuan race chased after him. The quasi-emperor held the magical bell in his hand and blasted everything in his way. He flattened the terrain and formed a smooth path. How could it be like this? Even Chu Feng was envious. This heaven-shaking treasure was definitely the work of a top expert in the domain. But the most important thing was the material. As long as he could seize it, he was confident he could nurture an even more powerful domain treasure. Yes, the supreme terrain can't be broken. If I really get close to the immortal furnace, I'll activate the true supreme flame and burn the Yuan race people to death. Chu Feng secretly planned. Secret treasures were dead, but humans were alive. Even though the magnetic marrow magical bell was extremely heaven-defying, it still had its limit. There were ways to break it. Chu Feng rushed inside. He couldn't do as he pleased here. He couldn't travel underground because the domains here were complex and the suppression was powerful. There were all kinds of strange plants in the surroundings. The dense Hongyan cypress was shrouded in flames, and the white bamboo forest was as white as jade. However, it was shrouded in lightning and didn't fear the flames. Crack! Chu Feng rushed forward like a hurricane, encountering danger several times along the way. Where do you think you're going? The people of the Yuan race shouted. However, they were also limited. That quasi-empyrean had almost been swallowed by the lightning. The white bamboo forest was swaying amidst countless bolts of lightning, sand, and stones. Flames surged out like the sea. Chi! The most terrifying part was that a wisp of flame flew out of the supreme furnace and struck the magnetic marrow magical bell, stopping it momentarily and preventing it from unleashing its power. Kill! Chu Feng suddenly turned around and killed his way back. Using the limited special nodes, he once again realized the dreamlike movement of crossing the sea and the heavens. He supported himself with domains and temporarily broke free from the restrictions of the terrain. He suddenly appeared and began killing the people of the Yuan race. With two strange sounds, he cut a male Yuan race divine king into two. He passed through and cut off the head of a female divine king, leaving behind a rain of blood. After one strike, he disappeared in the blink of an eye. The quasi-empyrean of the Yuan race was enraged. He had killed someone right in front of his eyes and even wounded his race. His eyes were as cold as lightning. He vibrated the magnetic marrow magical bell in his hand, making it glow once again as he charged forward. However, he didn't dare to move in this area. He could only wait for the treasure to fully recover before chasing after him. Thus, he missed the best opportunity. Chu Feng was already close to the supreme immortal cauldron. However, he was also frowning. Could this cauldron really reconstruct an indestructible body? Just now, a wisp of mist had disturbed the magnetic marrow magical bell. It was too dangerous and terrifying. Behind him, a large group of people followed. They all wanted to reach the immortal furnace. Some used their clan's strange treasures, while others carefully observed the path of the experts and slowly followed behind. Legend has it that the supreme furnace has a fortune of a mutant fruit. It might be at the great universe level. Some people muttered with blazing eyes. The Yuan race's people were naturally closing in. They wanted to lock onto Chu Feng and kill him. However, as they advanced, the hearts of the Yuan race's people became heavy. Even though they had treasures in hand and were so close to the furnace, they were still trembling in fear. They were afraid that they would encounter a great calamity. This place was unpredictable. It was a place of constant change in this world. It was extremely frightening. Reporting, the six-eared macaque monkey race requests an audience. They have delivered a letter. At this time, a ball of flame appeared. It circled around the terrain and went even further to report to the masters of these mountains and rivers, the flame spirit race. After hearing the report, even the green-haired minotaur appeared to personally receive the letter. Even Chu Feng was startled. Mi Tian and Mi Qing had both appeared earlier but then retreated, not following them. He had been wondering where they had gone, but now he finally understood. The monkey siblings didn't force their way in. Instead, they waited for a long time. They watched as the people from all sides entered the vile land and encountered danger. Only then did they deliver a letter. This was a true great move. I never thought that at the beginning of the Great Era, the Great Seal left behind by that old monkey was still here. It is now on this letter. Within the depths of the Forbidden Land, a creature spoke in a low voice. As it spoke, the letter sent by the six-eared macaque monkey race was burned to ashes. However, there was a symbol engraved in the void. It condensed without scattering and possessed a terrifying might. This was the mark of a great seal. It was left behind on the letter and now it was engraved in the void. It's feasible. Allow the six-eared macaque monkey race's descendants to enter the supreme cave. There will be 2 spots to refine their true selves and undergo nirvanic rebirth. Within the depths of the Forbidden Land, a terrifying flame spirit spoke, making this decision. When these words spread out, everyone was shocked. They were all inwardly shaken. Just how deep was the six-eared macaque monkey race's background? Just what era was that so-called old monkey from? The power of the Great Seal he left behind was actually so terrifying. His face was just too great. The Minotaur appeared. He personally went to receive the monkey siblings who had released their great move. They entered a special ancient cave. That place was overflowing with colors and was extremely close to the undying furnace. It was actually full of vitality and was much gentler and safer than this place. This was a companion furnace that had been examined by the flame spirit race. The supreme furnace was accompanied by more than 10 special small furnaces. They could similarly refine one's body, but comparatively speaking, they were much safer. They had already been subdued. As for the true supreme furnace lord, not even the flame spirit race dared to rashly enter. Their souls would scatter at every turn, and not even ashes would be left behind. At this time, many people became anxious. The six-eared macaque monkey race left later but arrived first. They actually had this kind of friendship with the flame spirit race and entered the furnace first. That was why some people became more and more courageous. They wanted to rush to the extreme end. Shwa! Divine light flashed. Someone blocked the Yuan clan's path, not letting them chase after Chu Feng. Who dares to do this? The Yuan clan's people shouted. The one in the lead was extremely young. His eyes were like bright stars, and he had an imposing appearance. His silver hair scattered behind him. He had a rather cold temperament. Human King. Someone spoke. Everyone was shaken. It was actually the Human King race? There were trillions and trillions of humans in this world, and they were the largest race. However, there were only a few races that were known as human kings. They had once ruled the heavens, but there weren't many left in this world. Which one is from the human king race? Even the Yuan clan's people's eyes narrowed. Mysterious yellow. Someone spoke. As for the young man in the lead, he didn't say anything. He was extremely cold and silent. His blood is mysterious yellow, and he has the power to open the heavens. Nearby, many people were shocked. They all cried out in alarm. This was a powerful race within the top 3 of the human king race. They were incomparably terrifying, and their blood had the qualifications to reach the 6th revolution or higher. A 3rd revolution human king was already rare. If it was a 6th revolution human king or higher, then it was simply unimaginable. It was absolutely heaven-defying. The world respects the human king. An old man spoke. He was a quasi-Empyrean from this race, and even the Yuan clan's people were afraid of him. You come here. The silver-haired man from the mysterious Yellow King race finally spoke, indicating for Chu Feng to come over. Chu Feng's pupils shrank. He was also a human king, but he didn't know which branch he belonged to if he traced back to the source. The human race of this world respects the human king. Similarly, we can also protect you, the silver-haired man said calmly. Chu Feng's eyes were deep. Respect this person as a human king? He really didn't have such a thought. He was also a human king, so who should he lower his head to? Who should he respect? However, he didn't show any displeasure. His expression was still calm. First, He didn't care if the other party was too arrogant. First, he wanted to see if they were friend or foe. Chapter 1391. Before Chu Feng could open his mouth, the Yuan family had already expressed their opinion. They walked forward to talk to the royal family of the mysterious Yellow Tribe. Zhou Jingde has offended my Yuan family. It was a simple statement, but it expressed the attitude of the Yuan family. It simply told them that Zhou Jingde was a creature hostile to the Yuan family. Although they didn't say to capture him, the Yuan family's words were enough. The reason why they weren't so direct was that they were afraid of the royal family of the mysterious Yellow Tribe. From ancient times until now, the royal family of the mysterious Yellow Tribe was one of the few rulers of the vast human clan. They controlled the largest race in this world, the human clan. Not many people in this world dared to look down on them. Inside the royal family of the mysterious Yellow Tribe, the silver-haired, cold-looking young man lifted his head, speaking in a domineering tone that couldn't be doubted. He's a human. It's not your turn to criticize him. He clearly wanted to protect Chu Feng. He didn't want the Yuan family to blame Chu Feng. For a moment, Chu Feng was surprised. He didn't think that this silver-haired young man would directly talk back to the Yuan family. Earlier, this cold-looking man was arrogant, which made Chu Feng have a bad impression of him. Now, he dared to talk back. The Yuan family dared to plot against Yushang's celestial venerable's bloodline. It was enough to show how bold they were. Before the Yushang family declined, they used to be extremely glorious. Especially their origin, it was unimaginable. Facing the royal family of the mysterious Yellow Tribe, even though the Yuan family had some scruples, they weren't afraid. A direct descendant of the royal family of the mysterious Yellow Tribe. If you were in the future, you would have some guts to oppose the Yuan family. But now, you're just a young man, not even the master of your tribe. Do you want to make enemies for the royal family of the mysterious yellow human tribe? A young god king of the Yuan family spoke with a harsh tone. He stood on a gold-threaded silverback stone and criticized the silver-haired man. The quasi-celestial venerable of the Yuan family with the magnetic marrow squinted. He didn't say anything, but the energy around him was so thick and terrifying, as if he could take action at any minute. The silver-haired man of the mysterious Yellow Tribe's royal family became colder. Are you trying to intimidate me? He's a human, and I'm the king, so I should protect him. This is an internal matter of the human race, and you can't interfere. Chu Feng's impression of him changed after hearing these words. He felt that although this callous man was somewhat conceited, he wasn't too bad either. He was actually able to say such words about protecting his fellow human race. On the other side, the young divine king of the Yuan clan sneered. Human king? Hee. Then, he took action. Of course, he didn't attack the silver-haired man directly. Instead, he pounced on Chu Feng. It was a gesture to show that even the royal family of Mysterious Yellow couldn't stop the Yuan tribe. That quasi-Emperorian nodded slightly. The Yuan race even dared to attack the declining Celestial Emperor bloodline. Although the Mysterious Yellow royal family had a great reputation and was said to have the power to open the heavens and desolates, they still couldn't intimidate the Yuan race. He cooperated with the clan's young king. The magnetic marrow magical bell shone and was about to lock Zhou Jingde in place. Otherwise, their descendants would be in danger. At this time, the silver-haired young man stepped forward to stop the Yuan race divine king. After the two collided, the Yuan race young man staggered back. He was frightened. The other side had definitely held back. He could feel the calmness of the silver-haired young man. He had easily shaken him off and wounded him. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. When he looked again, he found that the quasi-Empyrean on his side was also twitching. He had encountered a powerful enemy and his magnetic marrow magical bell had been stopped. An old man from the mysterious yellow royal family raised his hands to the sky. A hazy pagoda appeared, surrounded by black and yellow energy. It caused the Yuan race's magnetic marrow magical bell to tremble and ring unceasingly. Fine, I will spare that little dog's life for now, the Yuan race quasi-Empyrean said. His eyes flashed with cold electricity as he looked at the hazy pagoda. Chu Feng's murderous aura swirled around him. This old thing didn't care about his status. His words were rude and tyrannical. He dared to humiliate others like this. As a great divine king, Chu Feng wasn't afraid of a quasi-Empyrean. If it weren't for the fact that the other party had the magnetic marrow, he would have killed him. Barking dog. Chu Feng naturally wouldn't remain silent. His killing intent was aroused. In a moment, he would enter the immortal furnace and find a chance to start a massacre. Ignorant junior. The Yuan race quasi-Empyrean scolded. Then, he ignored him and stared at the human king bloodline. He couldn't help but be solemn. At this moment, he was shaken because he recognized that this was the legendary ultimate treasure of the human king clan. The mysterious yellow pagoda. This item was the ultimate treasure of the mysterious yellow royal family. It possessed supreme might and was considered an ancient treasure even in the Yang realm. It was said to be able to split open the heavens. However, he believed that it wasn't that the true body of the ultimate treasure had arrived. Rather, someone had used a secret technique to summon a portion of its power for a limited time. The specific situation was likely that someone had used a primal chaos spiritual object to carry a portion of the mysterious yellow pagoda's law patterns and brought it here. All right, our two races will each go on their way. We will mind our own business. The old man from the mysterious yellow royal family said. The hazy pagoda in his hands disappeared and the rich energy around him was restrained. With a cold snort, the Yuan race quasi-Empyrean left with his people towards the immortal cauldron. There were many rocks on the ground with fiery light lingering on them. Some magma depressions glowed bright red. Many special plants had a metallic luster that took root in this mountainous region. Let's go too, the old man from the mysterious yellow bloodline said as he marched forward. At the same time, he glanced at Chu Feng and signaled him to follow. They would go together with the human king bloodline. Let's go. You are a rare talent. As a human, you can be considered a rare elite. I will allow you to join my mysterious yellow bloodline, the silver-haired young god king said. The silver-haired god king said. His tone and expression were still rather cold. This should have been a result of his bearing and personality. Chu Feng wanted to say that he was a human king, so he didn't need to join the mysterious yellow bloodline. However, although the other was arrogant and his words were a bit harsh, he had just helped him resolve his crisis. Chu Feng didn't want to rebuke him. He smiled and followed, not saying anything. Behind them, many creatures were watching the fun, including some powerful alien races. They found that the Yuan race and the human king bloodline didn't fight, which made them feel regretful. At this moment, all the powerful races were preparing. They had taken out their secret treasures to approach the immortal cauldron. That cauldron was just a pit made of stone. However, it was truly a place that nurtured the heavenly embryo. It could be called the fortune heaven pit that could allow creatures to undergo nirvana. It was so close, but there was something strange along the way. It was just a short distance, but when the mist spread out, it felt like an entire world separated them. Anyway, it was more daunting than dangerous. Chu Feng's group stood in front of the immortal cauldron. They had arrived at their destination. All that was left was to enter the cauldron. However, no one dared to act blindly without thinking. No one dared to jump in. They were afraid that they would be burned to death by the mysterious ancient flame inside the Taishang terrain. Some races arrived one after another. That was because although this path looked terrifying, it wasn't fatal. Swoosh. Suddenly, a ball of flame shot out from the underground cauldron. A divine king standing at the very front didn't even have the chance to make a sound before turning into a pile of ashes. His body and soul were extinguished. No one died along the way. However, After arriving here and looking at the immortal cauldron, there were divine kings who died miserably. Everyone retreated, shivering. How could they enter the cauldron? The flame that shot out from inside could directly burn a divine king to death. If they jumped down, wouldn't that be the same as throwing away their lives? The scene was silent. No one spoke. A moment later, someone tried to throw a weapon inside. As a result, a ball of silver light shot out. It was a terrifying flame that soared like a mushroom cloud. Then, it exploded. The one who threw the weapon screamed miserably. He was truly inviting the fire to burn himself. He was turned into a torch on the spot. Then, he turned into a pile of ashes in an instant. He died miserably. This. Who said it was a place of life and death? This is a dangerous place. Whoever enters will die. Someone muttered. Then, everyone backed up. You carefully study it. This cauldron is definitely not vile earth. At this time, the silver-haired youth from the mysterious Yellow King race spoke. His gaze was cold, hinting for Chu Feng to quickly examine the heavenly cauldron. Chu Feng didn't pay him any attention. His impression of this race wasn't bad, but this cold-faced silver-haired male really wasn't that likable. Hong! Suddenly, an intense tremor sounded in the distance. The world was about to be thrown into chaos. The natural laws of time were pouring out in torrent. Chaotic energy surged and order became chaotic. It was as if heaven and earth were going to be turned upside down. Everything was in chaos. This truly was going to throw the world into chaos. This was precisely the disturbance caused by the people of Heavenly Immortal Island. Their ancestral artifacts revived. They were dyed in blood and continuously trembled. The figures that appeared there were also greatly shaken. The imperial coffin cried out and the all-life energy cauldron resonated. 3 figures, 2 males and that white-clothed female, all of them seemed so real. They possessed unmatched might as they reappeared in this world, making the world their turn upside down. The scene was too horrifying and unimaginable. In the blood-soaked mountainous region, an ancient path appeared clearly. It completely connected a certain place. I finally know where they went. It's just up ahead right there. I can see it. Could it be that they are going to return now? Heavenly Immortal Races. Xing Yuxian's beautiful face lost all color. She was no longer aloof like an immortal. She screamed there. Fragments of time danced about on that path, reversing the past and the present. 3 figures became more and more real. Chapter 1392. The fragments of time were densely packed, heaven and earth overturning. Everyone felt like those 3 figures were becoming more and more real. Were they going to appear in this world? That place was too special. Everything seemed like it was going to be overturned, about to become chaotic. The past and present were going to be reconstructed, yin and yang already in disorder, primal chaos returning to a single point. Heaven and earth rumbled. Everyone became petrified. It was simply unbelievable. Someone was going to step on time, walk out in an instant, rule over this world. In that instant, the ears of experts from all clans rang with wung-wung sounds. Then, blood flowed out from their eyes. That type of terrifying scene seemed to have exceeded the restrictions of natural laws, clashing with all things. However, everyone still stared intently, not willing to miss it even if they died. They wanted to witness an unprecedented miracle. In that region, the creatures of Heavenly Immortal Island trembled, all of them bowing down, shivering. They were all muttering something, earnestly offering sacrifices. The mountains rose and fell, ancient veins desolate. The primal chaos scattered, and the true scene gradually appeared. There were 2 nests there. The true dragon and undying bird resided next to each other. The nests were connected together, forming a special energy source, supporting the desolate path connected to the ancient past. The true dragon nest and undying bird nest were actually both here. How did this happen? Chu Feng was shaken. That was a place that could reverse life and death, one that could revive. No wonder the blood on heavenly immortal clans. Xing Yuxian's ancestral artifact was trembling, moving about. Was she going to enter that nest? However, all of this, when the primal chaos mist scattered a bit and the fragments of time were no longer dense, it was clear that the two nests were both serving that ancient path, only a portion of the energy source. The other energy sources were the very high terrain, as well as the entire world of the Yang. Chi chi chi. Bells and cauldrons rang out together. 3 figures tore through the sky on that path, reversing time. One moment they were close and the next, they slaughtered their way into the even more distant ancient past. She disappeared. Could it be that she returned to the ancient past? We might have all seen incorrectly. She seems to be pursuing something? Xing Yuxian said in shock. In that instant, some people understood. This was the reappearance of the truth of history. However, was this possible? There was someone who could reverse time. This was too terrifying, completely unrealistic. Who could travel along the great river of time? Only seeing was believing. They really did see it. Hong. Suddenly, a thunderstorm descended from the sky, blasting apart the dragon nest and undying bird nest. Another 3 figures descended, destroying this place and slaughtering their way into the distant ancient past. For a moment, the entire road was in chaos. Some people were interfering, and some people were destroying. The final result was that the 6 figures encountered each other in the end, fighting in close quarters. Blood splashed outwards, soul light shaking past and present. The scene of the heavens being pierced through and dyed in blood appeared. Everyone was completely stupefied. Those 6 individuals disappeared, slaughtering their way towards Gugu. I've heard of this legend before. Back in the day, there were people who searched for special nodes in the heavens more than once. They wanted to kill their way to an era called Ancient Chaos, and they wanted to find someone, time-dimmed. Finally, everything calmed down. The river of time did not flow backward. The past was the past in the end. It had long disappeared for many years, the extinction of endless ages. There was no way to reverse it. Meanwhile, at this moment, what everyone saw was only a corner of the truth of the past, witnessing the incomparably heaven-defying power of the ancient people. There were people who left this place, fighting intensely on the path of time. As for those people, some of them died, others slaughtered their way out from other nodes, long leaving. Ashes returned to ashes, earth returned to earth. The long river of time flowed forward in the end, impossible to resist. Those who dared to obstruct it would all be destroyed and erased. The winds and clouds scatter. A moment of glory, several moments of desolation, piercing through the heavens and desolating time. Those inspiring and moving ancestors, those terrifying enemies without a source, were all buried in this old land, buried by the great cosmos that rose up one after another, leaving no traces behind. The extraordinary years have already passed, and it all depends on the present. Someone sighed. It was actually an ancient voice from the depths of the Yuan clan's supreme terrain. It was extinguished within a sphere of fiery light, ultimately disappearing. However, those from overseas' heavenly immortal island weren't disappointed. They carefully searched for something. Even if it was a corner of a ruined armor or a piece of a clock, it would still be a great discovery. Meanwhile, if they found the true blood of those people, discovered even a strand of hair left behind by those people back then, it would still be a pleasant surprise. If they placed it on the ancestral altar to nourish it, perhaps something could be produced. The people and events of the past have all disappeared. Even the bones of the enemies might have rotted away, turning into dust. Why bother with the past? What is important is the present. Right, you and I will search for our own opportunities. People woke up one after another, no longer immersed in that period of history. In fact, there were some matters of the past that one couldn't find even if they wanted to. It was too long ago, and not many people were qualified to know the whole truth. However, there was one thing they were right about. To cross the tribulation of this life, one only needed to focus on the present. Exploring too much was useless. Chu Feng was also enlightened. His body became tranquil and peaceful. Who cared about the changes of the ages and the tragic truth of history? What did it have to do with his current situation? He only needed to focus on the present situation. Right now, he only needed to improve himself. After thinking to this point, he gazed at the undying cauldron in front of him with no other thoughts in his mind. The evolvers of each race had already recovered. They calmed their minds and activated the precious treasures they had brought with them. All of them wanted to obtain the fortune they deserved here. Moreover, there was another universe in the depths of the supreme forbidden ground. First, they would refine their bodies in the cauldron and burn their true selves. Then, they would search for the universe-level fruit. If they could cooperate with the master of this place and excavate the hidden treasures in the supreme terrain, only the heavens knew what would happen. You, come here so that the Yuan race doesn't kill you. The silver-haired young man from the mysterious yellow race pointed at Chu Feng with good intentions. He was worried that the Yuan race would launch a sneak attack and kill him. However, the words coming out of his mouth weren't pleasing to the ears. Chu Feng was a little annoyed. He couldn't just give him a slap, could he? Little friend, do you have any way to enter the revered 8 trigrams cauldron? The old man from the mysterious yellow race asked. I'm researching it. Chu Feng frowned. This was truly a land of death. Smoke curled up inside the stone cauldron, constantly emitting colorful mist. Once an object was thrown in, it would explode with flames that would burn everything. Several divine kings had already died while standing near the cauldron, let alone directly entering it. Even quasi-empyreans were afraid. They felt a chill in their hearts and didn't dare to approach. Could such a place really allow people to achieve nirvana? No one dared to act rashly. My race gives up. At this time, the people riding on the fiery shark spoke. They came from a powerful race, but they couldn't do anything in this place. The Tao race was searching for the 9 transformations golden body flower in the undying mountain, and the Buddhist race was listening to one of the heaven-splitting 6 elders preach sutras beside the sea of flames. They hadn't come yet. At this moment, everyone was silent. This so-called undying furnace couldn't be entered. It was indeed a land of death. The eyes of the Yuan race's people flickered. After thinking for a long time, they didn't dare to use the magnetic marrow magical bell to open the path. They were afraid that this treasure would be destroyed. Little friend, do you have a way? The old man from the mysterious yellow race asked Chu Feng. Chu Feng shook his head and sighed. It's difficult. I feel that even if an Empyrean goes in, they will die and turn into dust. Even if an almighty expert goes in, they will become a piece of land of calamity. This was his true opinion. For a moment, he couldn't see a way out. This so-called eternal furnace, the pure land, that could allow one to be reborn, was indeed like hell. Whoever went in would die. He didn't hold back and spoke his true feelings. So you're saying that it's impossible to refine the true self in this furnace? The old man from the mysterious yellow race furrowed his brows unwillingly. He was in charge of leading the team. Originally, he wanted to give the geniuses of his family a great fortune. Now, it seemed like it was just a dream. Aolo, a long howl sounded like a wild wolf howling at the moon. It was a bit miserable and also a bit like a roar to vent. Really, this is a special kind of enjoyment. This young master is crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. Even my hair is burnt off. My meat is already 70% cooked. If I sprinkle some cumin on it, it can be eaten with wine. Damn, I'm about to ascend to the ultimate realm. Along with the howling of a wolf, there was another sound. It was quite painful and miserable. The voice was trembling and hoarse as if his throat had been burned through by the flames. Everyone was shocked. They turned around to look at a place not far from them. It came from a companion furnace. The 6-eared macaque, Mi Tian. Everyone realized that this monkey was currently being refined by the strange supreme precious furnace. Even though it was inside the companion furnace, the effects were just as great. Unfortunately, This was something opened up by the master of this ancient land. Normal people couldn't enter. Everyone was incomparably envious. The undying Supreme 8 trigrams Furnace Lord couldn't enter at all. Whoever entered would die. It seemed like the companion furnace was the most suitable. However, would the master of this place, the flame essence of the Supreme 8 trigrams Furnace Lord, allow others to enter? In that instant, many people watched impatiently. Their expressions changed. Now that the Furnace Lord had become a dangerous place, many people's eyes became red and wanted to enter the companion furnace. Ah, it's cooked, my entire body is cooked. Damn, it's so fragrant, I want to take a bite out of myself, ah! The monkey cried out miserably, extremely mournful. He was talking nonsense in this kind of desperate situation, trying to find joy in the midst of suffering. This could also be considered a way to divert his attention. Even though his cries were so terrifying, he was still alive. His life was still there. This made people envious. Everyone knew that once he made it through, this would affect his entire life. This monkey would have many heaven-defying aspects and would become incomparably powerful. Not everyone had the chance to walk through the true revered 8 trigrams furnace. From ancient times until now, the most powerful clans all had legends. Whoever could refine a true body in the undying furnace would be destined to become a hegemon in the future. They would be unrivaled in the present age, reigning supreme on the path of evolution. Chapter 1393. That was because the revered 8 trigrams furnace could be considered one of the most ancient and powerful landforms in the entire Yang realm, the legendary heavens, the earth, and even the great Yin realm. Whoever could revive in the flames and undergo nirvana in the raging flames might one day become eternal and become a true overlord of the past and present. Apart from the monkey's howling, there was also a woman's voice in the companion furnace. It was his younger sister, Mi Qing. Her voice was relatively soft as she endured the pain. She wasn't like her brother who was howling like a ghost and weeping bitterly. I don't want to live anymore. I'll just sprinkle salt and pepper on myself and eat myself. This isn't a sin that a living creature can endure. My soul light struggled free and I saw that my brain juice had already been cooked thoroughly. The monkey's cry made people want to laugh, but at the same time, they were horrified and felt their hair stand on end. There was a dish called monkey's brain in this world, especially the spirit monkey's brain. It was like a great medicine, but every race only thought about it. No one dared to eat the 6-eared macaque's brain. But now this monkey was crying out. That scene was truly strange and terrifying. Senior, can you give us a chance and allow us to enter the companion furnace? In the end, someone couldn't help but transmit sound into the depths of the Forbidden Land. He requested the flame essence to give everyone a fair chance and let them enter the companion furnace to refine their true self. The 6-eared macaque's siblings were able to obtain such a great fortune with just a letter. It truly made people jealous. Some powerful races wanted to enter, so some people opened their mouths to make such a request. After a short period of silence, an aged voice came from the end of the Forbidden Land. We've waited for so long. Could it be that no one dares to enter the furnace? Is there no one among you who can control this furnace? He was quite disappointed. He wanted to find a domain genius, but now, no one dared to enter. They didn't even dare to try. Everyone was silent. Knowing full well that death was inevitable, who would be willing to be an idiot and sacrifice themselves for nothing? No one spoke after a while. Even Chu Feng was frowning. He didn't want to rashly declare his position. He was still researching furnace masters, and words were better than effective actions. Fine, you all can enter the companion furnace. The ancient flame essence allowed others to enter. There were a total of 12 companion furnaces, and the flame essence requested that each race could only occupy one furnace. The 6-eared macaque clan had already entered the furnace. It was obvious that they could not set foot in there. It was easy to see that the other races needed to fight over the remaining 11 furnaces. They needed to display their domain techniques and compete for them. This was the Flame Essence's request. Hearing this, the Yuan tribe member turned around and went to take the companion furnace. This clan was just too smooth, no one stopping them at all. The main reason was because they were too strong. Who dared contend against them? Who could guarantee that they could face them head-on? Even if the Tao race and Buddhist race were here, they would have to consider things carefully. In the end, they still felt some restraining fear. After all, there were 12 companion furnaces, and there were other furnaces to choose from. No one wanted to fight the Yuan race to the death. Immediately afterwards, another clan's people walked over with large step. Just like before, no one dared to stop them. This was a clan from the heavens above. There were also people who came here to fight over opportunities. Can you do it? Can you become a furnace lord? The silver-haired youth from the Xianwang tribe asked. Not yet. I'm still studying it, Chu Feng replied. The silver-haired youth was as cold as ever as he said, Do you really think you can conquer it in a short time? How could this be possible? This kind of thought was terrifyingly stupid. Forget it, come with us. We'll bring you into a companion furnace. Chu Feng beat him up. It was clearly out of good intentions, but everything changed after this white-haired youth spoke. Although he was inviting Chu Feng to enter the furnace and give him a chance, Chu Feng still wanted to spit on the silver-haired youth's face. He refused decisively, saying that he still wanted to study it here. Stupid, do as you wish. The silver-haired youth led the way and left. Your grandpa. Chu Feng spat out these words, but in the end, he didn't explode. The other party's way of doing things was truly unbearable. The old man from the mysterious yellow race also invited Chu Feng, but he rejected him as well. The old man patted his shoulder and left as well. Similarly, no one from the Xianwang King race stopped them. No one competed with them, and they smoothly seized a companion furnace. The 12 small furnaces were made of stone. Some were simple and unadorned, some were sparkling like they were cast from jade, and some looked like they were polished from metal. They were all different and special. Some were surging with 5-colored flames, and some were flowing with 7-colored haze. Moreover, they were all accompanied by chaotic energy. It was truly astonishing. Soon after, everyone rushed over to fight over the remaining companion furnaces. Only Chu Feng was left among the furnace lords. He was still researching, unwilling to give up. He truly wanted to enter this ancient furnace that was famous throughout the heavens. Almost immediately, shouts of war shook the heavens. Blood splashed out as a great battle erupted. Everyone wanted to seize a spot, and no one wanted to let go of this opportunity. However, even if they seized a spot, how many of them could guarantee that they wouldn't be burned to ashes by the companion furnace? However, even if they knew this, they still didn't hesitate. They wanted to seize a furnace first, and then think about it later. Who would let go of the legendary revered 8 trigrams furnace that could refine an unmatched body? At this time, a few people from the Yuan clan activated the magnetic essence magical bell. They raised a barrier of light, stabilizing the companion furnaces they occupied. Some people were about to refine their bodies and souls. However, suddenly, the quasi-Empyrean from the Yuan clan looked in a direction and revealed a shocked expression. He felt a special aura. A familiar aura? He was bewildered. At this time, someone stepped over, bringing some people into this place. Time is peaceful, the spirit is peaceful, and the heart has already become a Buddha or an immortal. However, it is not as good as going back in time and returning to my true nature. It was a youth with delicate features, red lips, and white teeth. His appearance was refined, and his entire body was surrounded by a hazy halo of light. He gave off a transcendent feeling. An ancient paragon. The quasi-Empyrean from the Yuan clan cried out. The ancient times he spoke of was not the ancient times mortals spoke of. It was a long, long time ago. He was an almighty paragon of that era. You're wrong. He's just a divine king. The youth shot him a glance and directly said. However, the Yuan clan Quasi-Emperor felt that he definitely wouldn't be wrong. In any case, he had cultivated the heavenly eye, so he could see that this was that person from back then, the one who was once incomparably terrifying. Only, why did this person return to his youth after becoming a youth? Even his soul light imprint didn't have a trace of the vicissitudes of life. Instead, he was full of youthful vigor. Then, the Yuan clan expert saw an old man beside the youth. That old man was a Quasi-Emperor, an acquaintance. When he was young, he had an extraordinary friendship with the Yuan clan Quasi-Emperor. Brother Mo, you also came. How have you been? The Yuan clan Quasi-Emperor greeted. He was even more certain that the youth's identity was terrifying. He actually needed that old friend to accompany him. That was because that old friend of his, the Quasi-Emperor surnamed Mo, was very respectful towards this youth. Brother Yuan, we've been separated since ancient times. Time doesn't spare anyone. It's really good that you and I are both safe and sound. On the other side, the old man surnamed Mo smiled and greeted the Yuan clan Quasi-Emperor. At this time, many people realized which clan had come. In the Yang realm, there was perhaps only one Mo clan that the Yuan clan attached importance to, and that was the Human King Mo clan. There were only a few Human King clans that still existed and were still flourishing. Apart from the mysterious Yellow clan, there was also the Mo clan king. Chu Feng also realized which clan had come. He had a fierce conflict with this clan in the past, and their hatred was great. Back then, at the Heavenspan Immortal Waterfall, he had killed the two royal brothers, Mo Feng and Mo Lei. Afterwards, he was wanted by the entire Mo clan. Fortunately, he blamed Long Yu for taking the blame for him. As a result, he was relatively safe, while Long Yu was chased all over the world. This is the Human King clan that is destined to oppose us. Chu Feng secretly paid attention to this matter. Brother Mo, can you help me with something? The Yuan clan Quasi-Emperor asked. What is it, Brother Yuan? The old man asked. Help me kill this child, or even suppress him. The Yuan clan Quasi-Emperor said. He knew that the Mo clan had a treasure that could lock onto a person's soul light. No matter how high up in the sky or how deep in the earth, it would be impossible to escape. He's just a human. It's easy. Who in the world dares to disobey their king? I believe he will listen to you and ask for forgiveness, the Mo clan old man said with a smile. Then, he looked at Chu Feng and said, Young man, I won't harm your life. Go and apologize to the Yuan clan. Why? After hearing this, Chu Feng's eyes flashed with cold light and killing intent. Just because I come from the Human King clan. Is that enough? Do you want to go against the Human King's decree? The old man chuckled and stared at him. Whose king are you? Who are you siding with? Get lost. Chu Feng reprimanded mercilessly. At the same time, his killing intent was endless. He decided not to hold back and would attack when he had to. Ha! Do you know who you're talking to? Since time immemorial, all human tribes have to bow to the Human King. You're too rude. The old man squinted. A murderous aura surged from there. As for the young man next to him, he was still smiling. He seemed to be an ancient sage, but he didn't say anything. At this moment, I'm going to start a massacre. Perhaps I've comprehended the mysteries of the Supreme 8 Trigrams Furnace Lord, so I need blood as a guide to carry out a sacrifice. I'll use you as a sacrifice, Chu Feng coldly said. Chapter 1394. Start a massacre and offer blood to the furnace. Chu Feng's words immediately stunned everyone. The tranquility of the Forbidden Land was broken. Even though the nearby magma was like a river crashing against the shore, and even further away, the towering undying mountain that the Tao race climbed was shrouded in black mist and all kinds of terrifying scenes, it was still difficult to hide the shock on everyone's faces. Ha ha! Although the Human King Mo family elder was smiling, that smile was not kind. It carried indifference and mockery. As a Human King Quasi-Emperor, which race dared to speak to him like this? Especially the human race. Once they saw him, they had to bow, because he came from the human king family, the Mo family. Then, the Mo family elder said, "Sometimes, I believe that the hot-bloodedness and conceit of youths is a kind of vigorous vitality. They are aggressive, and it is the frivolous instinct that their age has bestowed upon them. From a certain perspective, it is also the capital of youth." When he said this, he paused for a moment and then said coldly, "However, going too far is as bad as not going far enough. When a person is too conceited, they are not far from not understanding the situation, not knowing the immensity of the heavens and earth. Yes, I am talking about you. Today I actually met a fool like you." These were the words of the human King Mo family elder. He swept his gaze over Chu Feng. His words were calm and his voice was not loud, but it was exceptionally ear-piercing. Many people had strange expressions. The human king family elder's words were harsh and merciless, but thinking about it carefully, many people felt that he did indeed have the capital to preach like this. And someone like Zhou Jingde, who dared to disrespect the human king family, had died miserably. Everyone looked at Chu Feng. They felt that after he was targeted by the human king family, his situation would be extremely terrible. "Old man, you are tired of living. They are all sacrifices," Chu Feng said coldly. Beside the human king Mo family elder was a group of youngsters. They were the rising stars of their clan and were all top young powerhouses. At this time, they all revealed smiles. However, their smiles were a bit cold and reserved, showing that their status was not ordinary. They were arrogant and conceited. "Is he joking? Start a massacre? You want to use the enemy's blood as a sacrifice? Are you talking about us? Ha ha!" Some people didn't say anything, but this kind of smile explained everything. It was imperceptibly full of mockery and mockery. This was a type of attitude that looked down on others. It was as if the brilliant civilization of the humanoid king had met the barbarians. "Don't you know etiquette? Are you living a life of eating raw meat and drinking blood? Where did this person come from? He doesn't know how to respect the human royal family." These were their words. These simple words were filled with contempt, disdain, and even more disdain. There was a certain belief in the depths of their hearts. So what if one's attainments in the field of domains were high? As a human king, he naturally restrained the other human bloodlines. Therefore, they were aloof and confident. Not all the descendants of the human royal family were indifferent. Some of the more stubborn ones couldn't help but shout, "As a human, you don't bow to the king and dare to speak such nonsense? What a joke! Do you know what blood runs in your veins? In a moment, your blood and your body will tell you the truth. It's a kind of primal reverence from the soul. You need to prostrate yourself and kowtow to those with the human king's bloodline. Zhou Jingde, brother Zhou, please move your carriage and come over to apologize." There were also people who ridiculed him. Some of the young men and women from the Mo family spoke up one after another. Some of them had serious expressions, while others had mocking smiles on their faces. Chu Feng's expression was gloomy. He interrupted them with a shout and said, "A group of clay chickens and pottery dogs dares to talk about etiquette and reverence in front of me. Crawl over here and accept your death." These people were too conceited. They actually spoke so disrespectfully and without the slightest scruple. Naturally, he didn't have any good words. In any case, he was going to display the true might of the great divine king. He didn't mind spitting out foul air and baptizing it in blood. Some of the young men from the Mo family exploded on the spot. "Ah, he has character. When we capture him in a moment, don't kill him no matter what. Keep him alive and refine his muscles, bones, skin, and blood. Then, lock him up in front of our clan's mountain gate and let him live to show everyone." A young woman from the Mo family spoke, even more unyielding than the men. At this time, a few young experts from the Mo family activated their human king bloodlines at the same time. In a split second, bloody light shone resplendently like blazing suns in the sky. It was incomparably terrifying. Their pores and bodies released dazzling bloody light. It was actually purple blood that filled the air. It was as dazzling as the heavenly sun, suppressing all of the humans here. At the same time, stimulated by the young men's blood energy, the blood of the Mo family elder, that quasi-empyrean, also revived. This was a passive awakening. With a hong sound, it was as if a heavenly tribulation descended into the world. That area was covered in terrifying symbols. They carried traces of blood and gold. They stood out from the masses, releasing a world-shocking pressure. The most terrifying thing was that the young man at his side, who was suspected to be an ancient paragon, also moved slightly. An extremely terrifying aura pervaded the air. However, this young man quickly became calm again. The blood that was passively awakened calmed down again. Chu Feng's expression became serious. He had confidence and didn't fear enemies from all sides. However, he also became serious. In that instant just now, he keenly captured an abnormality. That young man really wasn't simple, a formidable character. Was he really an ancient paragon? However, his cultivation was only at the God-King realm. If so, then what could he do? Chu Feng's expression turned cold. He took the initiative to step forward, about to attack. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This Zhou Jingde was truly courageous. He wanted to move against the human king clan, and he even knew that there were unfathomable powerhouses there. At this critical moment, the quasi-empyrean of the Yuan clan spoke up. He reminded, "Brother Mo, be careful. Don't accidentally kill him. The seniors in the Zenith Forbidden Land want to keep him alive." I misspoke earlier. The human king Mo family elder was startled, but he soon nodded. He faintly smiled and said, I will follow the decrees of the wise seniors in the Zenith Forbidden Land. Since the Zenith Forbidden Land's flame essence needed a rare talent with a domain, then he would leave them alive. The Mo family elder made this decision. After all, the life forms in the Zenith Forbidden Land weren't easy to provoke. Even the human king clan feared them. The Yuan clan quasi-empyrean smiled. I'm now controlling the magnetic marrow bell and merging it with the companion furnace. It won't be good to attack again. You all be careful, don't let him escape. Now, their race had reached a critical juncture. The magical bell rumbled and densely packed domain runes merged with the companion furnace. It actually caused the place to emit exuberant vitality. It was no longer hot and dry, and it was as if it had turned into a heavenly paradise. This was their foundation. The Yuan clan had an inexplicable method and a peerless treasure that temporarily stabilized the situation, allowing the youths of their race to enter the furnace. Thus, it wasn't suitable for them to attack at this time. On the other side, the Xian Wang royal family was also in the same situation. They had entered the furnace and couldn't come out for a while. The domain runes fluctuated and turned into a resplendent land. However, at this time, the quasi-empyrean from the Xian Wang royal family spoke. He said, "Dao, brother of the Mo family, we are both humans. Why must you do this?" He was pleading for leniency and exoneration for Chu Feng. He didn't want Chu Feng to be killed by the Mo family. The Mo family quasi-empyrean replied, "Dao, brother of the Xian Wang race, you saw it with your own eyes. It's fine if he doesn't bow when he sees a king, but he's even disrespectful to our race. How can we forgive him? It won't be redeemed even if he kowtows 3 times and 9 times. The Xian Wang quasi-empyrean said, "The human king is only a title our ancestors gave us. It's a type of reverence, but it's the glory of our ancestors. We can't take it seriously, so it's normal for us not to bow. Why must you do this?" The Mo family elder's expression turned cold. The human king isn't just a title, but a supreme path. Your Xian Wang race doesn't care, but we do. Our race's ultimate path of evolution still depends on the human king path. Who dares to blaspheme or offend us? He committed a great crime today. He can't be forgiven. Chu Feng was a bit surprised. The Xian Wang race actually sided with him and said such words. Although the white-haired youth wasn't very likable and wasn't very good with words, he had a good impression of them. At this moment Chu Feng said, "Senior of the Xian Wang race, thank you for your kind intentions, but please allow me to be frivolous for once. Who are these people? I'll just slaughter them." He took large strides forward. The Xian Wang quasi-emperor opened his mouth, but he swallowed back all his words. "Ha ha!" At this time, the Mo family quasi-emperor laughed, but his eyes were cold, filled with contempt and callousness. He looked at the Xian Wang quasi-emperor and said, "As a fellow member of the Human King, it's not that I don't want to give you face, but look at how arrogant he is. As a Human King, I will clean up the Human King today." In fact, before he could erupt, the young men and women beside him, the young masters of the Mo family who had reached the God-King level, all moved. Each of them surged with blood energy. They were as dazzling as the morning clouds and as resplendent as rainbows. They erupted with the Human King bloodline domain, forming a special Tao field that pressed forward. Be careful, his attainments in domains are extremely high. Old friend, you should use your magnetic marrow treasure to suppress him. The Yuan family quasi-emperor reminded. The Mo family quasi-emperor nodded. He was also afraid of an accident. A magnetic mountain appeared in his hand, flowing with black light. It rotated there and released a mysterious force. All kinds of domain runes poured out in torrent. Even Chu Feng could only let out a long sigh in his heart. As expected of an old terrifying family, their foundations were truly profound. The magnetic marrow that he longed for was immediately taken out by the other party. It was refined from a mountain of magnetic marrow. How terrifying was a magnetic marrow mountain! It was extremely rare. How many of them could be found in the entire Yang realm? But today, he discovered that the Yuan family and the Mo family could take them out. But he was still fearless. Now that he had unlocked his shackles, there was nothing to be afraid of. There was nothing to be afraid of. A bracelet appeared on his wrist. It was sparkling and snow-white, with blood-colored patterns and spots like the starry sky. This was the evolved version of the diamond chakram refined from the mother gold pond. It could also be considered the rough core of an ultimate weapon, the 33-layered heavens diamond chakram. It could move the domain runes that were pouring out in torrents to the two sides, as though it was splitting open a vast ocean. At the same time, the group of young divine kings from the Mo family shouted the word "kill" and directly crushed over. They had enough confidence that once the humanoid monarch bloodline was activated, they could form an unrivaled humanoid monarch Tao field. It was even more terrifying than domains. If they encountered a divine king at the same level, there would be no suspense. They would be directly crushed and killed. Not paying respect to the humanoid monarch, you deserve death. As a humanoid monarch, I will clean up the door for the human race. These young men and women shouted. The humanoid monarch Tao field they formed was too powerful. It was extremely dazzling and descended like a pure land to suppress Chu Feng. They were all very confident as they advanced with extraordinary postures. They were like celestial immortals descending, like great demons suppressing the world. Each and every one of them was imposing and charming. They forcefully suppressed and killed while maintaining an aloof posture. What humanoid monarch? Crawl over here! Chu Feng shouted. He attacked the humanoid monarch Tao field formed by the joint efforts of over a dozen divine kings by himself and completely erupted. What? That's, in a split second, everyone couldn't help but close their eyes because they were in extreme pain. Some people were shedding tears of blood because they were shocked. Chu Feng's blood energy was like the sea as it completely erupted. His blood was golden and suppressed all directions. It was as if an ancient humanoid monarch had returned to sweep through all the kings. The two female divine kings who bore the brunt of the attack cried out miserably. Their bodies were smashed by his fist imprints and directly exploded after flying out diagonally. The most important thing was that their humanoid monarch, Dao Field, actually collapsed in an instant and no longer existed. You dare call yourselves kings? Who gave you the courage to clean up the door on behalf of the human race? Chu Feng shouted. At this moment, his shout was incomparably terrifying and directly aimed at a male divine king who couldn't stop in time. That golden sound wave blasted that person's face after turning into symbols, breaking through all kinds of protective technique. It caused his body to split into pieces and directly explode on the spot. Who was this person? A great demon or a great Buddha? He could roar a divine king to death with a single shout. Who are you? Someone from the Mo clan shouted. Seeing Chu Feng's blood energy and dazzling golden light, many people's hearts immediately sank. That was clearly some kind of legendary bloodline, a terrifying humanoid monarch bloodline. Everyone was dumbfounded. Stop, come back, the Mo clan's quasi-heavenly venerable shouted, but it was too late. Roar! With another loud roar, the female divine king in front of Chu Feng exploded. She was roared to death and exploded into a bloody mist. Crazy! Everyone was shocked and trembling in disbelief. Who was that? Was he also a humanoid monarch? His state was wild like a great Buddha or a great demon. Chapter 1395. With a single roar, the divine kings disintegrated. Chu Feng was like an everlasting great Buddha or a great demon that had descended, sweeping through everything before him. These were more than a dozen divine kings, and they all came from mortal king clans, yet they were so fragile in front of him. They were sent flying like scarecrows. The most crucial thing was that the dozen or so peak divine kings all surged with purple blood. Divine king energy surged, rushing into the heavens and merging together. It was like a heavenly country was rising and falling in the mortal world, enough to instantly kill those at the same level. However, that omnipotent mortal king Dao right that could crush all heaven-warping existences at the same level was broken. It was as thin as a paper window, easily torn apart. Mortal king, you're also a mortal king, someone shouted. The dozen or so divine kings from the Mo clan had disheveled hair, and some had bloodstains on their faces. Their voices were trembling as they stared at Chu Feng. In reality, everyone felt that this was too unreal. That Zhou Jingda's entire body was flowing with golden blood, flowing along his pores and along his hair. It was dazzling and dazzling, as if he was standing in a divine palace, ruling over the world. Even his hair had turned into a golden luster, each strand sparkling, releasing a radiance even more dazzling than the sun. He was even more divine and dignified than the so-called sun god. As his eyes opened and closed, golden lightning flew out, sharp and oppressive. All of this happened in the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint. No one could react in time. He was just too fast, and he was still attacking. Chu Feng didn't stop at all, attacking mercilessly from beginning to end. As he rose into the air, he threw himself forward. He was like a resplendent golden lightning streaking across, directly blasting through a divine king. Divine blood dyed the Forbidden Land red. Accompanied by a miserable cry, a young divine king at the side fell back. He crossed the void, wanting to avoid this fatal calamity, but it was still too late. Chu Feng's head of thick, golden hair danced in the wind. He was like an immortal demon that had been reborn. His valiance was unparalleled, and every movement he made was accompanied by dense and glaring runes. They were all order, and they caused the heaven and earth to tremble and the void to distort as if it was about to explode. He locked down the void, and that divine king couldn't struggle free. It was as if he was imprisoned in a painting, becoming a person in the painting. Puff! Chu Feng was too fast. Like a rainbow, the golden light swept out and arrived before him. He pulled with both hands, directly tearing that person into two and tossing the corpse away. This was really like tearing open a mottled remnant scroll. The person in that tattered scroll naturally no longer existed, and his fate was tragic. This was almost a one-sided suppression. There was no reason at all. Chu Feng crushed everything in his path like crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Who could resist him? A group of godly kings working together were defeated. The human king Dao Right collapsed, and they were being killed. They were originally of the same generation, but Chu Feng was like a heavenly monarch descending to the mortal world, sweeping through a group of people of the same generation. He was omnipotent, possessing an overwhelming advantage. Strictly speaking, Chu Feng was much younger than them. These people might look young on the outside, but their real age was much older than this. Clang! Someone activated a violet gold sword core. It was extremely dazzling, stretching across the sky. It was like a world-grinding blade that hacked down from the depths of outer space, representing death. This sword was extremely terrifying. The sword was only the length of a palm, but it hacked open the void. Sword energy erupted in tens of thousands of streaks, purple energy surging, surrounding the heavens. This was Mo family's direct descendant, someone who was extremely doted on. He obtained a heavenly sword from a well-known figure in the family. It was refined with mother gold, unstoppable. He fiercely activated it, hacking murderously at Chu Feng. However, what did everyone see? Chu Feng didn't evade at all. With a flick of his fingers, the sword shook up the void, making this restricted land rumble. The mountain region rumbled, and then magma overflowed into the heavens. Many people found this hard to believe. That sword core actually bent. The areas with more mother gold were unharmed, but the areas with less mother gold cracked apart. In the end, with a kacha sound, the purple sword core snapped. Chi! At the same time, Chu Feng opened his mouth. The sword energy nurtured in his lungs whistled out, turning into a golden rainbow. It was several hundred meters long, and it hacked the divine king who attacked. Blood immediately splashed into the sky. That person didn't even have the chance to let out a grunt before dying. Even his soul light was extinguished. Clang, clang, clang. They were close at hand. The other divine kings were fighting back with their lives on the line in a situation where they couldn't escape. The snow-white jade-like heaven-measuring ruler covered the sky and smashed over. There was also a great star-like net that covered the sky, covering Chu Feng. There was also an ancient lamp that flickered faintly. The wick erupted with glaring flames, burning towards Chu Feng. In a moment of life and death, everyone had no choice but to risk their lives. All of this happened in an instant. Chu Feng was covered in golden splendor as though he was burning with raging flames. After that, he swept up like a tornado, whistling up and enveloping him. He was like the ultimate human emperor who stood in the heavens. A protective light screen formed outside his body. To be exact, it was the manifestation of his unique monarch domain. He stood in the resplendent golden light, as though he was impervious to all techniques and innately undefeatable. These secret treasures that came crashing down were all sent flying. Boom! Moreover, as he attacked with his marvelous technique, the snow-white heaven-measuring ruler broke. The great net was minced into pieces by the sword light he spat out from his mouth. That ancient lamp was even more so, blasted by his fist. Fiery light poured down in torrents, burning a few divine kings nearby, and causing them to scream miserably. They tumbled in the void as their bodies were charred black. Chu Feng brandished his fists, and his energy filled the sky. It was as though he was driving a vast golden ocean, and it was also as though he was carrying an expanse of the universe's starry skies as he suppressed and killed enemies in all directions. Another 3 divine kings were killed by him amidst sounds. The bodies of the 3 were pierced by him, and they were sent flying as their soul light was extinguished. It was like the roar of a beast that shook this forbidden land. The Mo family's quasi-celestial venerable was extremely furious and hateful. His eyes were bloodshot, but it was useless even if the fire in his heart burned the 9 heavens. Everything happened in an instant, and it was already completed. Although he was berating, it was difficult to save those lives. And he naturally attacked when he saw the situation was bad, and he came over to kill. Unfortunately, Chu Feng was too fast. As a great divine king, he was invincible when facing this group of young divine kings. He simply didn't seem like someone from the same era. He was more like an ancient god of war who strangled a group of ignorant youngsters. He killed so many divine kings before the Mo family's quasi-celestial venerable arrived. The Mo family's quasi-celestial venerable was extremely hateful. Even though he executed 8 kinds of marvelous techniques at the first moment to attack Chu Feng, that young divine king Zhou Jingda's speed was too fast. In the process, he avoided all the marvelous technique lights and once again killed the Mo family's young divine king. Boom! The magnetic Marrow Mountain in the hands of the Mo family quasi-empyrean displayed its might and covered the entire sky. Black light poured down in torrents like a torrential downpour. It was about to mobilize all the domain runes in the mountains and rivers to kill Chu Feng. Moreover, he himself also descended from the sky like a great demon from outer space descending to the mortal world. The astral winds were vast and mighty, and the order runes were dazzling to the extreme. They filled the sky as he blasted towards Chu Feng. With a cold snort, Chu Feng wasn't afraid at all. He rushed up and was about to meet the other party head-on. Moreover, the diamond chakram in his hand shone. It shook off the domain runes that filled the sky and blocked the treasure, the jet-black magnetic essence mountain. But at this moment, a terrifying crisis appeared. Another powerful and tyrannical energy separated the two people. The Mo family's mysterious youth had risen in revolt. The Mo family's youth, suspected to be an ancient paragon, was extremely handsome with red lips and white teeth. He had been very peaceful earlier, but now, his brows were vertical and filled with endless killing intent. The space between his brows shone. This was the Mo family's all-seeing eye. It erupted with an incomparably terrifying aura. It was like a strange world-destroying light that wanted to wipe out everything in the Yang realm. You can't. Ancestor, your body is unwell. Just leave it to me. The Mo family's quasi-celestial venerable shouted anxiously. That youth's origins were as great as the heavens. He wanted to imitate the legendary unmatched ancient technique, the three-world body. He wanted to reconstruct his body. Now, he seemed to have returned to his youth, but the risk was too great. That paragon wasn't suited to take action. He came here to borrow the immortal supreme furnace to reconstruct his true self-body. However, it was too late to say anything. After that youth's all-seeing eye opened, his gaze tore through the sky like an immortal sword cleaving the heavens as it suppressed over. This kind of attack, this kind of power, if placed on the battlefield, could directly kill tens of thousands of corpses. They would pile up into mountains and blood would flow like rivers. It was extremely terrifying. I don't care if you're a divine king or an old undying thing. Crawl to the side for me. Chu Feng roared. The other party's body was strange. He was actually at the divine king realm, so what was there to be afraid of? As his eyes opened and closed, golden light burst forth. This was the result of the fiery eyes operating to the extreme. Clang clang. In the void, the two individuals' gazes turned into symbols of order that collided fiercely. Sparks flew in all directions. However, this kind of collision didn't continue. That youth directly released a great killing weapon. A violet golden furnace appeared. It wasn't large and was only the size of a fist, but it seemed like it could melt the entire cosmos. It carried heaven overflowing power and poured down great Tao symbols that were like stars in the sky, blasting towards Chu Feng. This made Chu Feng's expression change. That violet golden furnace was extremely terrifying. It actually wanted to lock down his soul light and prevent him from moving. It was extremely dangerous. That's the Mo family's human king furnace? In the distance, someone cried out in alarm. They were indescribably shaken. Even the pupils of the Yuan clan's quasi-empyrean and the mysterious Yellow clan's elder shrunk. They felt apprehensive. Was it really that item? No, it's an imitation refined from the leftover materials of the human king furnace. Finally, The mysterious Yellow Clan's elder recognized it. Despite this being the case, everyone still trembled. The leftover materials were similar to the human king furnace. They were all mother gold, moreover an extremely rare mother gold. Moreover, they contained special great Tao patterns. If they were refined into a great killing weapon, who could contend against it? He's dead for sure. In front of the life companion furnace, the Yuan clan's quasi-empyrean said. Everyone sighed inwardly. That was an imitation of a true ultimate artifact. Its materials were terrifying. It could definitely kill all divine kings, quasi-empyreans, and others. However, at this moment, Chu Feng was fearless. Go! He released a short shout. The human king blood in his entire body erupted, breaking free from some kind of invisible binding. Moreover, with a shake of his hand, the diamond chakram suddenly smashed out. In the void, snow-white splendor flickered. That diamond chakram seemed like it could pierce through 10,000 domains. It was incomparably heavy, carrying endless energy as it smashed towards that violet golden furnace. Dang! In the end, that furnace was actually blasted back by the diamond chakram. How is this possible? Many people cried out in alarm. What kind of bracelet was that? It was actually able to blast away the imitation mortal king furnace? Chu Feng was secretly shocked. He deeply felt the terror of that furnace. If his diamond chakram wasn't too extraordinary, then any other weapon would have already been shattered. Today, his diamond chakram had been refined to an extremely astonishing level. It could be considered an ultimate artifact's core, the 33-layered diamond chakram. Because of this, it was able to blast away the imitation mortal king furnace. Ancestor, don't take action, leave it to me. The Emo clan's quasi-empyrean cried out, because he knew that this virtuous paragon senior was not in a good position to take action. Boom! He borrowed the power of the magnetic essence mountain to dive down. Moreover, his palm turned into a golden mountain that slammed towards Chu Feng. Chu Feng coldly snorted. Just now, he originally wanted to face him head-on, but he was interrupted by that mysterious youth. Now, he naturally wouldn't retreat and faced him head-on again. Poof! The moment the two collided, the Emo clan's quasi-empyrean shifted his body in the air. Then, he staggered backward. His arm was spasming, full of cracks and bloodstains. Xiao! Chu Feng was like a primal chaos arrow that shot out from the creation of the world. He was just too fast, taking the initiative to attack. He rushed over again with the diamond chakram protecting his body, blasting away the domain symbols that filled the sky. Meanwhile, he himself blasted towards the Emo clan quasi-empyrean. Under the continuous collisions, the Emo clan quasi-empyrean coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. His body trembled as he continuously retreated. This is impossible. Many people were shocked. A divine king injured a quasi-empyrean? He could actually suppress them. He is a great divine king. Someone was horrified, sighing inwardly. At this moment, not to mention the people here, even the Tao race experts on the distant Undying Mountain were shaken, all of them watching this place. Meanwhile, on the other side, the heavenly immortal race's people were also stunned. Xing Yuxian's eyes were brilliant as she stared at this place. Meanwhile, the eyes of Jiang Luotian from the Little Yin realm released divine radiance. She looked at Chu Feng, feeling as if they had met before. She saw a similar aura, a similarly tyrannical opponent. It left her deeply surprised, her heart pounding. Boom! At this time, an explosive sound rang through the air. The bell sound was like thunder, pouring down in torrents. The sky erupted with great Tao symbols. The Yuan clan quasi-empyrean launched a sneak attack, no longer maintaining the peace and tranquility of the companion furnace. He brought his clan's magnetic marrow magic bell treasure and rushed into the heavens, slaughtering his way over from behind to kill Chu Feng. However, Chu Feng's divine senses were too sharp, directly avoiding him. Since you've delivered yourselves to my doorstep, I'll kill all of you, Chu Feng said coldly. At the same time, with a shake of his hand, the diamond chakram flew out again. It was as if it had turned into a starry cosmos. The inside of the bracelet produced a sea of stars and a black hole, frantically devouring everything. Several Yuan clan divine kings were sucked into the companion furnace, entering the black hole of the sea of stars within the bracelet. They were directly turned to ashes, instantly killed in body and soul. The Yuan clan quasi-empyrean was both shocked and angry, as well as a bit scared. He wanted to attack Chu Feng from behind, wanting to deal him a fatal blow, but in the end, his own clan suffered disastrous losses. "Old man, didn't you want to kill me? This young master has been waiting for you all this time. Die!" Chu Feng shouted. He dove forward, his body turning into golden lightning, simultaneously attacking the two great quasi-empyreans. Chapter 1396. The Yuan race quasi-empyrean's heart was dripping blood. The rising stars of his family were in their golden years, and were full of vigor. Yet, they had been crushed just like that? That's right, it was a crushing, an obliteration. A round, snow-white diamond chakram tore through the air and melted those people into piles of ashes. Their fates were extremely miserable. Those were the elites of the Yuan race, the most outstanding talents of their generation. However, they couldn't even withstand a single blow from Zhou Jingde and were killed by the diamond chakram. The Yuan race quasi-empyrean's vision went dark. His seniority was quite high, so it was already quite despicable for him to launch a sneak attack on a domain genius at the divine king level. In the end, his own family was killed instead. This was a classic case of trying to steal a chicken only to lose the rice used to lure it. Everyone was flabbergasted and felt a chill run through their bodies. They had to re-evaluate the young man's strength. The Yuan race quasi-empyrean roared and activated the magnetic marrow bell to attack. His eyes were scarlet as he threw caution to the wind. If he couldn't kill Zhou Jingde today, he would become a joke. That was because he had threatened to kill Zhou Jingde more than once before. Later on, the mysterious yellow race had protected the young man again and again, preventing him from succeeding. But now, it seemed that the young man's previous silence and lack of fighting to the death wasn't out of fear but rather disdain. He was like a hibernating dragon that didn't act ostentatiously until now. The Yuan race quasi-empyrean shouted, "Brother Mo, attack! He's so young. Are you going to let him cause trouble for you when his blood energy becomes as vigorous as the sea? Our blood energy will dry up in a few years." He was joining forces with the Mo family quasi-empyrean to kill Chu Feng. This was utterly shameless. These two old antiques who had touched upon the domain of empyreans, famed characters who had lived for countless years, were joining forces to kill a divine king. In truth, there was no need for him to say more. The Mo family quasi-empyrean had already activated the magnetic marrow mountain and was charging over. Black light flowed about and turned the entire sky black. It was as if a tempest had arrived and black clouds covered the sky. Chu Feng snorted coldly. He didn't really care. As a great divine king who had undergone all kinds of tempering, he wasn't afraid of a quasi-empyrean. Boom! In the blink of an eye, his entire body was sparkling and translucent, as resplendent as a Buddha. Amidst the blossoming multicolored light, his entire body seemed to be cast from gold, and his monarch blood chi surged, covering the sky and earth. At this moment, his every movement was like that of an immortal Buddha, but also like that of a war devil. It was as if he was invincible, and the vital energy that filled the sky resonated with him. At this moment, golden blood energy rushed into the sky, tearing apart the black light and darkness. The order of heaven and earth resonated with him. Golden divine chains interweaved around him like phoenix feathers, tearing apart the void. Dang! The bell sound was ear-splitting. The Yuan clan's quasi-empyrean's magnetic marrow magical bell expanded like a divine mountain from the distant past. The black bell was so massive that it filled the world. Right now, the bell sounds rumbled, ringing through the entire restricted land, also shaking up the majestic mountains and rivers, making the natural laws in the void arrange themselves, great Tao symbols appearing. The domain treasure, the magnetic marrow magic bell, had been completely activated and mobilized the power of the mountains and rivers. It wanted to borrow the domain runes contained within the Forbidden Land to kill Chu Feng. Boom! Chu Feng didn't hesitate at all. He opened his mouth and spat out an expanse of runes. They burned like 9 layers of immortal flames. This was a wisp of his essence energy. He activated the diamond chakram and directly faced it head-on. In the sky, all kinds of order runes pressed down like the stars pouring down in torrent. They covered the diamond chakram in a dense mass. But at this moment, the diamond chakram was extremely extraordinary. The sun and moon appeared on the snow-white bracelet, adorned with starry skies, rotating black holes and spreading blood-colored patterns. It was forged from heavenly blood gold, starry sky gold, and the primordial mother gold that Chu Feng had brought from Kunlun on Earth. It could merge all the mother gold in the world. Now, it possessed the characteristics of all kinds of mother gold. It was as if it was attacking from beyond the 33 heavens. The boundlessly majestic Tao sounds were deafening as they resounded throughout the Forbidden Land. Boom! All kinds of domain runes were actually scattered by it. They cut through the obstructions and crashed into the magnetic marrow magic bell with a boom. Dang, 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 accompanied by a terrifying bell chime, the black radiance of the great bell rapidly dimmed. The countless runes it had gushed out were disintegrated and torn apart by the diamond chakram. The quasi-deity of the Yuan race gasped. This was too astonishing. The magnetic marrow magic bell in his hand was a treasure among treasures. It was difficult to find in this world. But now, the magnetic marrow magic bell had dimmed and all kinds of great Tao runes had been cut apart? If the diamond chakram were to strike its body, it would most likely shatter. Boom! At the critical moment, the Mo family elder came to the rescue. He brought out the black magnetic marrow mountain and smashed it over. It was as if the world's #1 mountain had fallen down from the heavens and was about to crush all matter in the world. Buzz! The diamond chakram rumbled and rotated violently as it smashed into the magnetic marrow mountain. The magnetic marrow mountain dimmed amidst loud bangs. All kinds of domain runes were torn apart and were about to be struck. Both the Yuan race and the Mo king were shaken. The other party's bracelet was too heaven-defying. It had actually countered 2 magnetic marrow treasures. Normally, the magnetic essence weapon was the bane of metal weapons. It could be easily taken away. With a turn of the magnetic light, it could directly turn the metal treasures of the 5 elements into scrap metal. But today, the other party's diamond chakram was too terrifying. It wanted to counter the magnetic marrow treasures instead. Kill! The 2 quasi-deities shouted. They were quite shameless and didn't care about everyone's opinion. They attacked together, each using their most powerful methods to attack the youngster in front of them. They were afraid that the magnetic marrow treasures would be destroyed, so they hurriedly used their sinister methods. They brought out the soul blood sword core. As long as it came into contact with the opponent's blood and soul, it would dissolve the opponent's spirit and turn him into a walking corpse. At the same time, they each brought out a large black net, a human skin scroll, and other things. They were all cast with a sea of souls and were extremely vicious. These were all forbidden techniques that were looked down upon by others. It was because the process of refining these weapons could be said to be atrocious and extremely cruel. It required the slaughter of millions of creatures, refining special blood and souls, and only then could it be successfully refined. These were all soul weapons, and what they killed was soul light. Chu Feng's eyes flickered with cold light. Then, dazzling golden lightning erupted. As his arms moved, the trajectory was extremely terrifying. It carried profound traces of the Tao as if he was moving with heaven and earth in his grasp. The energy was too powerful, making the void explode as if it was going to explode. Hong! A great explosion rang out. He used the Buddhist race's Vairocana fist. It was as if an immortal great Buddha had truly descended into this world, subduing all evil spirits and suppressing all demons and ghosts. He barehandedly broke that blood-colored sword core, directly blasting it into several dozen blood-colored fragments. The expressions of the Yuan clan and Mo family's quasi-deities changed. They quickly dodged. Even they themselves were scared of being hit by the soul blood sword core fragment. If they came into contact with it, their soul light would similarly be dissolved. Sacrifice all evils, kill! They shouted at the same time. A large black net covered the sky and covered this part of the sky. It enveloped Chu Feng within. There was also a human skin painting scroll that seemed to be carrying millions of souls. It whistled as it pounced forward to kill. The golden blood energy around Chu Feng's body contracted under the suppression. His Vairocana fist also became dim. It was as if a holy great Buddha was surrounded by darkness, demons, and ghosts and was about to be devoured. After all, they were two quasi-deities. Any one of them could kill a group of divine kings. Even a great divine king might suffer a great loss when facing two quasi-deities who used forbidden techniques and sinister secret weapons. However, Chu Feng's power was beyond imagination. When the Buddhist light dimmed, he let out a low roar. White mist filled the air from his mouth and nose as the golden blood in his body boiled once again. He used his own robbery induction breathing technique as well as the true wonderful seven treasures technique. The present wonderful seven treasures technique had long since been completed. Moreover, Chu Feng had absorbed the four most powerful rare materials in the world, such as the reincarnation earth and the mother metal liquid pool. The earth, metal, water, and yin attributes were fused with the wonderful seven treasures technique. Its power rose explosively to an unfathomable realm. Now, after Chu Feng used it, it was as if four sword embryos were resonating. They wanted to kill true immortals and great Buddhas. There was nothing they couldn't overcome. After the four resplendent beams of light rushed up, there was nothing they couldn't destroy. Even though that so-called large black net was cast with endless soul light and gathered the resentment and soul power of millions or even tens of millions of evolvers, it was now cut through. The four sword embryos crossed the sky and cut through everything. The large black net was cut open, causing soul light to scatter everywhere and resentful souls to wail. Then, they burned with a sizzling sound and turned into ashes. The Yuan race elder clutched his chest with a pained hand. That was his forbidden weapon, a treasure he had refined by gathering the blood and souls of countless evolvers. How could it be broken by someone barehandedly? Pup. On the other side, the human skin painting also let out a soft sound as it was pierced by the four sword embryos formed by the wonderful seven treasures technique. With a fierce twist, the human skin was torn into pieces. The soul light collapsed and wails echoed everywhere. It was as if millions of primordial souls had been released. Then, they returned to dust and dust to dust. They were melted under the brilliant wonderful seven treasures technique, and thus freed. The Mo clan elder screamed. This was his flesh and blood. His own vicious secret treasure had been destroyed by someone barehandedly. It's the wonderful seven treasures technique. It's the quasi-immortal race's clan-defining chapter. It's ranked 10th among the 10 great techniques since ancient times. He actually grasped it. Moreover, it's so powerful that it doesn't conform to common sense. Someone exclaimed in shock, his voice trembling. Even the quasi-immortal race couldn't use the wonderful seven treasures technique at this level. That kind of power was too terrifying. Many people realized that Zhou Jingde must have collected unimaginable rare materials that were perfectly compatible with the seven attributes of the wonderful seven treasures technique. Only then could he suppress the world with divine might. In the distance, those from the celestial race were also dumbfounded. The quasi-immortal race had a close relationship with them. Their bloodline was extremely close, so they naturally knew about the wonderful seven treasures technique. If he continues to cultivate this level of technique and collects the other three rare materials, it'll be enough to rival the time technique and the chaotic tribulation song, which are ranked in the top 3. Jiang Luoshan was shocked after hearing Xing Yuxian's words. Her expression became increasingly odd as she stared at Zhou Jingde in front of her. Boom! At the same time, the battle between the secret treasures in the sky had also come to an end. The diamond chakram was incomparably powerful. It shook the magnetic marrow magical bell and the magnetic marrow mountain to the point where they were about to crack. They trembled continuously and tumbled in the air, causing the void to rumble. Large black spatial cracks extended continuously. Bang! Only when the two magnetic marrow treasures dimmed and all kinds of domain runes were extinguished by the diamond chakram's impact did they fall to the ground. Withdraw! Chu Feng shouted softly. The inside of the diamond chakram's ring immediately turned pitch black and transformed into a black hole. The two magnetic marrow treasures were sucked into the black space. The people of the Mo family and the Yuan family cried out in alarm. Those were rare treasures refined from the magnetic marrow mountain. How could they lose them? However, it was too late for them to stop. They had been completely taken away by Chu Feng. This time, Chu Feng didn't want to use the diamond chakram to destroy the magnetic marrow mountain. He wanted to take it for himself. The people of the two races were shocked and angry. At the same time, they were terrified. Kill! At this time, how could Chu Feng hesitate? Like a dragon formed of golden lightning, he soared into the sky and attacked the two quasi-empyreans. He broke through again and again, collecting the magnetic marrow treasures and cutting open the forbidden weapons. Then, his true body arrived in front of the two. During the fierce collision, blood splashed everywhere. With a soft pop, the Yuan quasi-empyrean's left arm was torn off by Chu Feng. The Yuan quasi-empyrean groaned. His hair was disheveled and half of his body was covered in blood. He was both ashamed and angry. He felt a great sense of humiliation. Previously, he had displayed the prestige of the Yuan family again and again, saying that he would kill Zhou Jingde. But now, his arm was torn off and he was wounded severely. You? Chu Feng shouted. He used the 7 wonderful treasures technique. This time, 4 beams of light flew out. They didn't turn into sword cores but bound the opponent. He arrived in the blink of an eye and raised his hand to slap. The sound was so clear that half of the Yuan race quasi-empyrean's face twisted. His teeth flew far away, mixed with blood, and he fell into the dust. Some of the Yuan family's god kings hadn't been attacked yet. Their eyes turned red. Their tribe's legend was humiliated, which made their faces burn. This was a great humiliation. Boom! At the same time, Chu Feng exchanged fists with the Mo quasi-empyrean. After several exchanges, an extremely domineering fist seal pierced through the Mo quasi-empyrean's chest. Blood splashed everywhere. Kill! Join hands! The surviving young god kings of the Yuan family and the Mo family couldn't bear it anymore. They took out their banners and special treasures. They surrounded Chu Feng and wanted to help their tribe's legend. However, they weren't on the same level. Chu Feng, who was at the god king level, was an unbeatable existence to them. The diamond bracelet spun and swept out. Immediately there were miserable cries. Several god kings were reduced to bloody mist on the spot, forming clumps after clump. Suppress. In the distance, the mysterious young man from the Mo family, who seemed to be an ancient virtuous paragon, took action. He took out the violet gold Mortal King Cauldron replica and also wanted to kill Chu Feng. No, ancestor, your body is unwell. It's not suitable for you to take action. Hurry and leave. In the future, take revenge for us. The Mo quasi-empyrean shouted. Then, he crazily attacked Chu Feng. At this time, Chu Feng was merciless and callous as he unleashed a massacre here. The diamond bracelet soared through the sky. With a boom, it collided with the violet gold human king cauldron and blocked that great treasure. Meanwhile, he reaped the lives of god kings and attacked the two quasi-empyreans. With popping sounds, the shoulders of the two quasi-empyreans from the Yuan family and the Mo family exploded. Both of their arms were lost, and they were imprisoned by Chu Feng and captured alive. Just you two, yet you dare to talk nonsense about killing me? Chu Feng coldly said. With snapping sounds, he directly broke the necks of the two quasi-empyreans, causing their bodies to spasm and tremble uncontrollably. Their soul lights were still there, unable to break free from their bodies. They were suppressed by Chu Feng within their ruined bodies. Chu Feng looked at the mysterious young man, wanting to kill him. This shocked everyone. Ancestor, use the secret technique. Hurry and leave. The Mo family quasi-empyrean from the human royal race howled with soul light. You're all clay chickens and pottery dogs, yet you still dare to compete with me? Chu Feng coldly said. At this moment, the people of the immortal race and the Tao race were watching from afar. They were somewhat absent-minded. Meanwhile, the mysterious yellow royal race was also indescribably shocked. They had already noticed and realized that this young man was a mortal monarch with the strongest bloodline in the human race. Which royal race did he come from? That kind of golden blood was too terrifying. It surpassed ordinary mortal monarch blood, especially the silver-haired young man from the mysterious yellow royal race. At this time, his mood was quite complicated. Earlier, he was cool, but his attitude wasn't very good. Now that he thought about it, this kind of person didn't need his protection. Chapter 1397. Old Ancestor, let's go. Mo family's pseudo-empyrean cried out again. This was an ancient great sage from their clan. If not for him being trapped by the legendary three-world body, and being tempted, resolutely falling into the divine king realm to reconstruct his Tao body and then refine his soul, he wouldn't be in such a predicament. Correct, they were too distressed today. A young divine king was simply covering the sky with a single hand, wishing to wipe them all out. Where was the so-called dignity of a human king? It was all gone, ruthlessly beaten up by someone. I'm not leaving. If I leave today, what face do I have to see, Ancestor Wang? That youth spoke, walking over step by step. However, he was also coughing, his expression not normal, a bit pale. This was because it wasn't suitable for him to take action. This won't do, unless we invite Ancestor Wang's descendant to return to his youth. Otherwise, in the divine king realm, no one can stop him. Mo family's pseudo-empyrean shouted. The Ancestor Wang he spoke of was Mo family's Wang Chuzu. His descendants' bloodline was unimaginably tyrannical. If one of them appeared now, they would definitely defeat the experts of the various eras. This type of evaluation left all of the evolvers here greatly shaken. Apart from Ancestor Wang's descendant, no one could keep this Zhou Jingda in check? This really was a bit shocking. Even the enemy gave this type of evaluation, so one could see just how terrifying this youngster surging with golden blood energy was. There will be a chance. Ancestor Wang's descendant will appear in this world one day, suppress the so-called golden eras, break all of the extreme combat strength records of the past. That youth continued to slowly walk forward, making heaven and earth resonate with him, releasing great Tao divine sounds that were so loud even the deaf could hear. It was as if someone was lecturing about the Tao. Only, an abnormal redness appeared on his face, as if his blood energy was surging. His body swayed, as if an unmatched wave of energy was going to burst out from a dam. Ancestor Wang's descendant will reappear in this world? Mo family's old ancestor's eyes immediately widened, releasing sinister radiance. He simply found this hard to believe. It was rumored that Ancestor Wang's descendants should have all passed away in meditation. Perhaps only a few of them might still be living in the clan's supreme Tao cave, nurturing their true self and resisting time. Yet now, he actually heard these words. That's right, the first thing he thought of was that there might be a descendant of Wang Zhu who was cultivating the body of 3 lives. Perhaps he was about to succeed, and that was why he said those words. This was especially true when the young man before him was a virtuous paragon from the primordial era. The reason why he was able to obtain a supreme and ancient incomplete heavenly method like the three reincarnations physique was most likely because of the imperial ancestor's descendant. Is that true? Once the king ancestor's son appears, he will crush the flourishing age and explode the so-called dazzling experts of the heavens, achieving the ultimate legend. Emo family's quasi-empyrean was so moved that even his soul light was trembling, shouting there. Stop dreaming. Let's go. Defeat Golden Era? I can give it a try next time. Chu Feng sneered. What ancestors? What predecessors? He didn't believe in these things at all. If he really met them one day, he would just sweep them all away. Right now, he was a great divine king. In the future, he wouldn't be weaker than others, walking at the very forefront of the path of evolution. He wouldn't retreat when encountering enemies, and he would attack the endless time-space. Sacrificial cauldron. Chu Feng said coldly. He did what he said. He really wanted to use the quasi-empyrean's flesh as sacrifice to the immortal revered 8 trigrams furnace. Now, the Yuan clan and Emo family's 2 quasi-empyreans' corporeal bodies were still preserved. It was only their necks that were broken, and their soul light was still there. No, you can't do this. At this time, they felt Chu Feng dragging the 2 of them towards the furnace. The 2 quasi-empyreans' bodies shone, and they wanted to struggle. They were incomparably ashamed and resentful. He wanted to use them as sacrifices, and it was destined to be an extremely humiliating way of dying. Mortals used livestock as sacrifices, while evolvers used living beings with abundant spiritual nature. From a certain perspective, it was also considered to be sacrificing the 3 animals. That was why they were angry and felt humiliated. That was because Chu Feng was treating them as the 3 animals. Sacrificing them to the 8 trigrams furnace like this, their way of dying was too lacking in dignity. Kill! At this time, that young man finally forced his way over. His steps were slow, and he gathered countless energies between heaven and earth to fuse with him, causing his own aura to rise to the extreme. In ancient times, there was once a terrifying powerhouse of the Emo family, Emo Qinkong. In order to explore the 3 lives body, he obtained initial results and regained his youth. Now he attacked. Rumble! An explosive sound rang out. This dangerous land was trembling, and the mountain range was rumbling. Every corner was shining. Many of the domain runes contained within the mountains and rivers were activated. This was Emo Qinkong's power. With a sudden attack, his entire body's blood energy was like a rainbow. The heaven and earth resonated, and the divine sound of the great Tao was like a great explosion of thunder, covering this place. Purple runes filled the air, and like a vast ocean bursting through a dike, it smashed towards Chu Feng. Great Divine King! Chu Feng's pupils contracted. He really underestimated this person. He actually reached the Great Divine King level. This was a bit shocking. He didn't know whether it was because the so-called 3 lives body's reputation was well-deserved, or if this person was originally very terrifying. After regaining his youth, he reconstructed an unrivaled body. Boom! Chu Feng didn't hesitate. He turned around and smashed a fist imprint over. There was nothing to fear. It was just a head-on clash, so he really didn't care. All kinds of order symbols blossomed between the 2. It was as if a resplendent starry sky exploded, burning there. It was like a dreamy rain of flowers, illuminating the silent river of time. Bang! With just one strike, the Emo family's great divine king, Emo Qinkong, flew out. He coughed out large mouthfuls of blood, his face pale. He had suffered serious injuries. Old ancestor, there's something wrong with your body. Don't fight anymore, hurry up and leave. The Emo family's quasi-empyrean cried out in alarm. Only Emo Qinkong himself knew that apart from his own problems, that young man was also ridiculously strong. It was simply unimaginable and too tyrannical. This was a strength that was close to the Empyrean realm. Chu Feng was astonished. Under his all-out punch, the other party actually only coughed out blood, and his body wasn't torn apart. As expected of a great divine king, one had to know that he, this great divine king, had gone through all kinds of tempering. His accumulation was too deep, and one couldn't judge his strength by his age. For example, reincarnation earth, mother gold pool liquid, and others, he had absorbed their essence before. Truly formidable, to actually be able to take a punch from me without suffering any injuries. Chu Feng sighed. Mo family's great paragon, Mo Qinkong, really wanted to vomit blood. They were both great divine kings, but he coughed out blood because of you. Are you showing off? Or are you showing off? The Mo family's quasi-emperor was also indignant. He thought that Zhou Jingdo was still pretending to be obedient after taking advantage of him. His family's old ancestor's body was unwell, which was why he coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. As for the others, when the spectators heard these words, their faces all became strange. They really wanted to say, "Aren't you praising yourself in a disguised way? Not bad, you are indeed extraordinary." Chu Feng looked at the delicate and pretty youth, nodded his head again, and said this in a very pertinent manner. Everyone was speechless. Why did this kind of praise feel so strange? In everyone's ears, the feeling completely changed. Too narcissistic. Is there anyone who praises themselves in such a disguised way? In the distance, Jiang Luoshan muttered softly. Be quiet, don't say too much. Xing Yuxian solemnly reminded them. She realized that the young divine king who had walked all the way with them was too terrifying. He would most likely leave his name in the history of evolution and a glorious era. In the end, this kind of character might evolve to the great universe level, or even become an ultimate existence. Again, Chu Feng raised his chin in a graceful and confident manner. He left the two quasi-emperors behind and walked forward. As for the diamond chakram in the sky, it was also confronting the violet gold furnace monarch. The two collided with each other with a loud bang, causing countless Tao patterns to interweave in the torn void. Kill! Mo Qinkong charged forward. The vertical eye between his eyebrows opened to stare straight at the various origins. This was the clan's all-seeing eye. It could be considered a wondrous innate technique and was mysterious and unfathomable. Once this wondrous technique was used, it could pry into the enemy's technique. It was known to be able to steal all the techniques in the world. Of course, this required one to cultivate to the extreme. Forcefully stealing the secret techniques of a higher-level evolver could cause one to suffer a backlash. Chu Feng coldly snorted. He had dealt with the Mo family before and naturally knew some of their rumors. He immediately activated the robbery induction breathing technique and unleashed the wonderful seven treasures technique without holding anything back. When the flower of laws bloomed, the void exploded and energy surged like a vast ocean. It was extremely terrifying. Mo Qinkong let out a muffled groan. His vertical eye was dripping blood. He didn't try to pry into the opponent's techniques and only used it to attack, but he still suffered a slight backlash. Kill! Both of them shouted as they charged at each other. Amidst the resplendent multicolored energy, people could see the two overlords colliding continuously. Then, one of them fell and the human king's blood splattered everywhere. Bang! Mo Qinkong's body was covered in blood as he collapsed. Ancestor! The Mo family quasi-emperor roared. Rumble! In the sky, the violet gold furnace monarch was also rumbling. It was sent flying by the diamond chakram and finally fell to the ground. Everything was already over. The Yuan family quasi-emperor roared, but he couldn't resist at all. He was lifted up by Chu Feng and thrown into the immortal revered 8 trigrams furnace. It's your turn. Next, Chu Feng threw the Mo family quasi-emperor in. At the same time, the Mo family's virtuous paragon fell into the furnace. Whoosh! Crazy winds stirred, thunder roared, sand and stones flew about. Mist rose in this place, spreading out from the undying furnace. The next moment, Chu Feng also threw the bloody mist from the explosion of the divine kings into the furnace. Flames danced and a mysterious mist lingered. It was a very strange place. It's my turn now. With that, Chu Feng leapt into the furnace. At this moment, a shocking phenomenon appeared. The furnace suddenly emitted a monstrous flame. This was originally a cave, but in the blink of an eye, it was as if a simple and unadorned copper furnace had emerged from the ground and towered over the world. Moreover, a human figure appeared. He was waving his palm leaf fan and fanning the furnace fire as if he was refining a golden pill. He really went into a furnace, lord. The white-haired young man from the yellow royal family was shocked. His cold expression disappeared as he stood there in a daze. This person is too bold. Is he crazy? In the distance, Jiang Luoshan and Xing Yuxian were also indescribably shaken. The Yang realm is not bad. There are many strange things. Some of the terrains are enough to make the ancestors of the heavens apprehensive. Don't tell me that the revered terrains really fell from the 33-layered heavens? At this time, someone suddenly spoke from outside the forbidden ground. Wu, let me see if this really is the legendary lost furnace. Another person spoke. Oh, someone sacrificed the immortal 8 trigrams furnace. Haha, did they know that the 5 heroes of chaotic times are here? They took the initiative to sacrifice themselves and wait for us to enter the furnace to obtain the fortune, haha. Haha, the golden age has come. Chapter 1398. More people came. There might be some unforeseen event. Those 5 people were in the mist, standing in different directions. They surrounded the 8 trigrams furnace and were about to hunt. Haha, truly miraculous. It seems like there really is something beyond the 33 heavens. The undying 8 trigrams furnace actually fell here and became a dangerous land. They were all extremely mysterious, giving everyone a tremendous pressure. Every single one of them wore black armor in the great mist. Their true appearances couldn't be seen, but they were like 5 demonic gods from the ancient times. They had accumulated an aura of endless time. Who are these people? The various clans were shaken. Zhou Jingde leapt into the furnace master, and that was already shocking enough. Now 5 more people came, and they were also going to enter the furnace. How could they not be shocked? Wu, not bad. Let's begin. There are ready-made offerings inside, but they aren't rare enough. Someone spoke. They all carried heaven and earth pouches, and there were clearly rare offerings inside. Within the leaf fire, within the mist, the undying 8 trigrams furnace surged with energy. This place was like hell. Fiery liquid surged, ghosts wept, and gods howled. Sand and stones flew everywhere. The countless creatures that died here from the ancient times seemed to be struggling to escape. Sometimes, the 8 trigrams furnace was like an immortal realm. Auspicious multicolored light shone brilliantly, fiery liquid bubbled, and flowing light splashed in all directions. There were fairies walking in spirals and Tao ancestors sitting on altars chanting sutras. It could be said that this place was mottled and dazzling. It was extremely shocking, and strange scenes continuously appeared. At this moment, Chu Feng entered the furnace. It was like he was wandering between hell and heaven, walking between life and death. With one step, pure land surrounded him, and with another, malicious ghosts haunted him. Every time he took a step, what he saw was different. The underground cave wasn't large, but after entering, it was as if he was placed in a heaven and earth great furnace, refined by an ancient world. At this moment, mist surged and fiery multicolored light leapt about. The outside world couldn't see the scene inside at all. Chu Feng took a deep breath. He grabbed a handful of reincarnation earth and covered his body in defense. Apart from this, he opened the stone jar and prepared to enter at any time. It was because it was too dangerous. After coming here, he felt that life and death could happen in a single breath. He opened his eyes of fire and gold and observed this hellish world. With a boom, a blinding golden light surged from the stone walls. He couldn't help but let out a groan of pain. At this moment, His eyes were dripping with blood, suffering from severe scorching heat. Even his pupils were injured. What kind of fire was that? The walls of the furnace were made of rock, and the golden light that shot over was some sort of ancient flame. It was rather domineering, and even the eyes of fire and gold could not withstand it. Chu Feng's eyes were bleeding, and he staggered back a few steps. However, he was gradually adapting, and slowly sensing the truth of this place. It seemed to be a world within a furnace, and one would feel like an ant within it. This place seemed to be infinitely large, but after calming down, one would be able to sense that the inside of the furnace was only several dozen feet wide. The real furnace walls were completely stone-like, engraved with natural patterns. However, upon closer inspection, they looked like unmatched Tao laws, expounding on the world's everlasting and unchanging great Tao. Some of the stone-like patterns flowed with fiery light. As long as one used the slightest bit of energy to touch them, even the golden eyes would suffer a backlash. This was also the reason why Chu Feng's eyes were dripping with blood. I have to merge with this place and synchronize with the pulse of the stone furnace. Otherwise, if it rejects me like this, I will undoubtedly die. Chu Feng took a deep breath. This place was full of special energy. A certain part of the furnace wall rose with purple mist, as if it was coming from the east. It revolved around Chu Feng as he breathed. However, he let out another muffled groan. Half of his body, including his mouth and nose, was submerged in the purple mist. His flesh was burning and his flesh was almost destroyed. He felt a wave of horror. It was indeed difficult to merge with this place. He hadn't even moved, and his true body was almost burned by a kind of fiery light. The reincarnation earth rose and fell. The sparkling grains revolved around his body, isolating him from the fiery light. This allowed Chu Feng to temporarily return to peace. However, this type of protection didn't last for a long time. All types of changes appeared within the entire stone furnace. Scarlet multicolored light shot out from one of the stone walls. That was a red secret flame. With a hong sound, it surged over. The entire stone furnace was trembling, fiery light overflowing into the heavens. Then, 5-colored light rushed into the heavens from the bottom of the stone furnace, overturning Chu Feng. Raging flames covered him, and all types of fire Tao essence frantically expanded, surging outwards. The entire stone furnace was activated, refining Chu Feng. Streak after streak of laser-like matter shot out from the stone wall, all of them concentrating on Chu Feng's body. This made his mind sink. This wasn't only a characteristic of the 8 trigrams furnace. There was also a type of viciousness, a type of unwillingness and anger mixed within, wishing to destroy him. Sacrificing blood to the furnace is still not enough. Chu Feng sighed. He immediately used the stone jar to protect his body. His body seemed to have shrunk, and he sat cross-legged on the jar's mouth. The lid above his head floated up and down, but it wasn't sealed. He knew what it was. In the past, too many experts had come here, all of them powerful evolvers from the long river of history. They were all the elites of their respective clans, the outstanding talents of a generation. However, they had all died, refined by the furnace. Their obsessions, their heroic spirits, had more or less left behind some traces, accumulating on the furnace walls. Now they were causing chaos. This was the reason why he wanted to sacrifice blood to the furnace after studying it, but now, it seemed that it was clearly not enough. How much sacrifice would be enough? No one could say for sure, because the number of heavenly geniuses who had died here since ancient times was just too many. It was to the extent where some of them were even older than the masters who had entered this place, the fire spirit race. There were a few bone imprints at the bottom of the furnace, and even now, they hadn't completely disappeared. Traces of ashes were left behind, and there were even traces of human skeletons. Of course, there were no true bone pieces, only imprints after they had been smelted. Even so, it was still enough to shock the heavens. This was the revered 8 trigrams furnace that could burn all things. Under normal circumstances, Nothing could exist here. I have to resist it head-on and dissolve the traces left behind by these ancient heroic spirit. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome. But this can also be considered calcining one's own true soul. As long as I can endure it, there will be benefits. The most important thing was that after erasing the traces left behind by past heavenly geniuses, he had to activate the vitality of this place. Otherwise, no one would be able to endure the 8 trigrams furnace's incineration. The true 8 trigrams furnace's refinement required drawing upon the flames of life. Chu Feng took action here. On one hand, he temporarily used the reincarnation earth to protect his body, and on the other hand, he drew upon the domains to activate the furnace's human nurturing ancient patterns. It could be said that within this stone furnace, as time flowed, this was a path of 10,000 death. The only chance of survival was to draw upon the flames of life and transform it into a nurturing land. Boom! Suddenly, raging flames surged and lightning interweaved. A giant face appeared and pounced towards Chu Feng. This made him suck in a breath of cold air. That was a heavenly genius of the past. Its malicious intent was revealed. Just how powerful was this person back then? Just how unwilling was he? The remnant of a person's consciousness could actually exist on its own and be preserved for such a long time. 1. Divine light trembled. The diamond chakram appeared in Chu Feng's hand. Now, it could be considered a rough prototype of the 33-layered heavens. It was extremely meticulous and was used to transform into a demon. Transform into a demon, transform into a ghost, transform into an immortal, transform into a deity, transform into a myriad of spirits. Chu Feng released a light shout. Ever since he refined this chakram, he had carefully examined a few ancient texts. Since ancient times, artifacts of the 33-layered heavens were too rare. There were records that said this kind of rough prototype was extremely mysterious and possessed boundless terror. It could transform all races and even demons and monsters. Its effects were astonishing. Now, he wanted to give it a try. Even though it was still rough and had yet to mature, its power was extraordinary. Ah, a miserable cry rang out. That giant face became distorted and became indistinct after being struck by the diamond chakram. Then, the diamond chakram shone as if it could illuminate the heavens. It was as if the future had appeared ahead of time. That face disappeared, transformed by the 33-layered heavens diamond chakram into nothingness. The multicolored mist dispersed. Hung long. The diamond chakram spun. The surrounding wills and demons and ghosts all cried out in alarm as they scattered into ashes. Even Chu Feng himself sucked in a cold breath of air. This diamond chakram actually had such wondrous uses. It was just too extraordinary. He had previously tested it out before. If he relied on himself to purify them, he would have to expend a great deal of effort. He might not even be able to succeed even if he paid the price of blood. However, now, he actually relied on a single bracelet to purify many heroic spirit. The so-called 33-layered heavens great artifact wasn't just for show. The rumors weren't false after all. Hong. At this time, one of the stone walls surged with boundless purple energy. It surged like a great river, as if a great river had burst its banks. It rushed over. The diamond chakram was submerged and surrounded by purple energy. It was about to be refined and restricted. The 8 trigrams furnace's fiery light retaliated on its own. And, in the end, the diamond chakram floated up and down. The two resonated. It didn't melt and instead became increasingly sparkling and translucent. It was as if it was being nourished and refined by some type of substance. Its Tao aura became more and more natural. Weapon nurturing flame? Chu Feng was astonished. It seemed that weapons made of the 33-layered heavens great artifact were blessed by the heavens no matter where they were. It was actually being refined in such a way. As for himself, he could only sit cross-legged above the mouth of the stone jar. Even with the reincarnation earth surrounding him, he was still in great danger. Where's the human nurturing flame? It's time to activate it. Chu Feng once again drew upon the domain. He wanted to refine himself. Rumble. The boundless Tao flames were all order and laws. All kinds of light shot out, and one wall after another was activated. All kinds of flames boiled, and chaotic lightning appeared to strike the furnace. Chu Feng felt his hair stand on end. He summoned the diamond chakram over. Purple energy surged and blocked many of the lightning bolts. The sparkling bracelet emitted order and became increasingly rich in Tao aura. However, the next moment, a great crisis arrived. Mysterious patterns appeared at the bottom of the furnace, and then endless flames gushed out. There were all kinds of colors. With a boom, Chu Feng was shaken to the ground. The stone jar was flipped over, and he was shaken out. He let out a blood-curdling scream. This kind of pain was so intense that it almost burned through his soul light. At the very least, his physical body was immediately set on fire. His body dried up, and even some of his bones were broken. What kind of flame was this? The stone furnace shook, and mysterious symbols appeared at the bottom. They flickered as if they were going to destroy all vitality. The gate of death is wide open. Vitality shouldn't be far away. The gate of life is accompanied by the stars. 10,000 years in an instant, open! Shouted Chu Feng. He exerted all his strength to develop the domain. According to his deductions, this was the most dangerous moment. At the same time, the opportunity might have come because the flame of life wasn't far away. Chi. The chaotic arc of lightning struck down, and half of Chu Feng's body was charred black. This was just brushing past him and didn't hit him. If it had touched his body, both his body and spirit would have been destroyed. It was too dangerous at this moment. Crack. Another chaotic arc of lightning struck down, but it still didn't graze him. However, half of Chu Feng's body had already dried up. His flesh and blood were almost non-existent, and his bones were deformed. Was this going to evolve into a land of extinction? His heart was shaken. But as he pushed with all his strength and made the terrain resonate, the other half of his body was like a spring breeze as it was wrapped up in vitality. This was practically half heaven and half hell. It was too terrifying to be on the line between life and death. He didn't move again. The slightest mistake would cause the flame of life to disappear, and he would die without a burial ground. This flame of life was only drawn out temporarily. The stone jar wasn't far away, and the reincarnation earth had also fallen to the ground. The diamond chakram was submerged in the purple mist. Now, he could only rely on himself. Heh, did you hear the scream? That person is most likely dead. Who would have thought he was actually a top-notch sacrificial offering? Someone spoke above the 8 trigrams furnace. The 5 mysterious experts were the same as the others. They couldn't see the true situation inside the furnace. That was because the dense mist and the surging flame essence had concealed all the truth. At this moment, the stone furnace was recovering, and no one could see through the truth of the heavenly mysteries. They could only hear Chu Feng's final scream. He might still be alive. That's for the best. There aren't many top-notch sacrificial offerings like this, and they actually incited the ancestral Taoist substance. One of the 5 spoke. They saw the ancestral Taoist substance appear all over the sky and rush into the furnace. It's our turn. Continue the sacrifice. One of them smiled. He opened his cosmos pouch and tossed it into the furnace. There were special golden bones, feathers from some peerless vicious bird, and strange silver blood. These were all unimaginable sacrificial offerings. They were actually emitting light beams of law runes. Why do I feel like he's still alive? One of them frowned. Haha, isn't this even better? We'll pick the peaches along the way and let him sacrifice himself to the furnace. We'll wait for the flames of life to appear, and then we'll go in calmly and kill him. That's right. Even the most powerful domain genius in the world would have to sacrifice more than half of his life in order to ignite those flames of life. We'll enter the furnace, intercept the fruits of their labor, and destroy them. This is simply too wonderful. I love this feeling of harvesting the fruits of victory from others. Haha! The 5 people were plotting and discussing in secret. However, they were also making sacrifices at the same time. Oh, let's help you out. Otherwise, what if you die along the way? Do your best to pave the way for us. We'll come immediately. One of them was smiling. It was fine if that person died, but if he was alive, they would pick the peaches along the way and enjoy the fruits of fortune. It's about time to enter the furnace. Thank this person. Regardless of whether he's dead or alive, he's done his duty. Oh, I hope he's alive. Let's thank him in person and send him on his way. Chapter 1399. Who are you people? Someone finally couldn't hold it in any more and shouted loudly. He was very dissatisfied with those mysterious men and women. They actually wanted to take the fruits of others' labor at such a critical juncture. Most importantly, they had no enmity, yet they wanted to sacrifice others. Their methods were cruel and somewhat excessive. The person who spoke was the silver-haired youth from the mysterious yellow race. He had always been cold and cool, causing Chu Feng to suffer many times. But at this moment, he was the first one who found these 5 to be an eyesore. Many evolvers felt the same way when they heard this. They were all dissatisfied with the 5 because they were too overbearing and ostentatious. Ever since they came here, they looked down on the world and looked down on the various races. They were truly insolent. At the edge of the cave, in front of the supreme immortal furnace, the 5 stopped. They were about to enter the furnace, but they were astonished when they heard this. They revealed faint killing intent when they turned around. You dare to berate us? Oh, so you have some background. The humanoid monarch bloodline is indeed something, but we don't care. We'll kill you first. One of the 5 mysterious experts spoke in a domineering manner. He wanted to kill after hearing the question, and he wanted to kill everyone from the mysterious yellow race's royal family in the companion furnace. This caused the hearts of those near the furnace to tremble. Just what background did they have that they dared to look down on a branch of the Yang realm humanoid monarch? But at this moment, another person among the 5 spoke and stopped that person. Forget it, the humanoid monarch bloodline is also extraordinary. If we search for the roots, some of these old farts might not have passed away yet. Let's not complicate the issue and let them live. This was no small matter. The ancestor of the humanoid monarch bloodline might still be alive in this world? This was a secret that made people shudder. The silver-haired youth from the mysterious yellow race's royal family snorted and said, "How arrogant. This is the Yang realm's forbidden area, not your backyard." At this moment, Xing Yuxian from the overseas heavenly immortal island also said softly, "Dao brothers, you can do as you please if you want to refine the imperishable body, but why do you have to open your mouth and kill others to fulfill your own goals? This is too tragic." Right now, within the revered furnace, Chu Feng couldn't hear their conversation at all. If he knew that someone was targeting him like this, his blood would have long since boiled with rage. It was one thing for the 5 of them to pick peaches along the way, but they even treated him as a sacrifice, wanting to enter the furnace and slaughter him, using his bones to pave their own path to nirvana. Hee, I know that you are very curious and want to know our origins. Fine, there is no harm in telling you. We are people who came from the end of this path of evolution. Our home is at the edge of the world of the living. One of the 5 youths spoke. At this moment, they all turned around, revealing their true appearances. In an instant, their auras surged and became incomparably sharp, causing the surrounding space to distort and become blurry. The 5 of them seemed like they were going to crush everything in their path. They revealed their own identities. This was a type of intimidation, fearing that they would incur public anger and something unexpected would happen. Now, they were using their own backgrounds as a warning. The 5 of them were surrounded by furnace flames, and they were also accompanied by dense mist. Multicolored haze rose, setting them off like ancient immortals and devils who had set foot in forbidden lands, powerful beyond compare. They all wore black armor, and their callous faces all seemed as if they had been carved by blades. There were 3 men and 2 women. One of them had brilliant golden hair, and his face was as fair as jade. Another had silver hair draped over his shoulders, and his expression was indifferent, carrying a chilly aura. The armors on these 5 all carried the aura of endless time, and they were actually so young. Those were most likely battle armors passed down from generation to generation, precious treasures bestowed by their ancestors. Armor refined by immortal blood? At this time, even the quasi-celestial deity of the Xian Wang royal family was shocked. He revealed a bewildered expression as he stared at the black armor on the 5 of them, feeling quite shocked. He naturally knew some rumors, because he had lived long enough, and his own family's origins were also too great. According to legend, the world of the living might have been a broken branch path of evolution. It had once fought with immortals, and it was said that the world of the living won. However, it was possible that it had broken the passage itself, thus forming a sealed space. Now that they saw these people, how could they not think too much? Back then, not many years after Chu Feng entered the world of the living, he had entered a gray area with the 9 underworld's ancient ones. It was a trading ground belonging to the underground dark forces, and he had heard this kind of rumor. However, now that he was in the stone furnace, he didn't know what was happening on the surface. Great divine kings, all 5 of them are great divine kings. At this time, the faces of the Tao race powerhouses who were harvesting medicinal herbs on a black immortal mountain in the Taishang Forbidden Land were full of shock. What? They're all great divine kings? How is that possible? Even in that most glorious era, it was difficult for a race to have 5 great divine kings. Many people were shocked, feeling that this was too absurd. We don't come from the same race. We're in the borderlands, and you'll never understand that we can connect to the heavens. A silver-haired man among the 5 said indifferently. Don't think too much. Our ancestors only lived at the forefront of this branch path, and they're not people who stand on your side, heh? At this time, another person among the 5 spoke. You're creatures from beyond the realms? Could it be that you're from the fallen immortal clan? Jiang Luoshan, who was standing together with the people of the heavenly immortal island, was shocked and couldn't help but cry out. Regardless of whether it was the Buddhist race or the Tao race, they all became serious. They approached from afar, and if that was the case, the problem was too serious. You're all thinking too much. We belong to neutral ancient families, and we don't lean towards any side. We only live at the end of the world of the living, and we're not in charge of guarding this branch path of evolution. Clearly, those 5 people also realized the severity of the problem, and they didn't want to become public enemies. They only wanted to intimidate everyone, and one of them made a rare explanation. And at this time, one of the 5 people stood out. It was a young woman, and her long golden hair was smooth and supple. Her face looked like it was carved from fine jade, and her black pupils were very deep. She said, "Oh, the sacrifice has begun. There's no time to waste. We should enter the 8 trigrams furnace, or else we'll miss the best opportunity." The scene was silent, and many people thought of many things. For a moment, they were a bit absent-minded, and no one stopped them. The 5 people suddenly disappeared, seizing the opportunity to enter the furnace. They didn't want to miss the best opportunity to enter the furnace. For a moment, the raging flames were like an ocean, and the light of the flames overflowed into the sky. Great fog surged, and the entire stone furnace became indistinct. The 5 people became more and more mysterious, and it was as if they were stepping on an ancient passage. They walked over step by step, and they stood in the immortal revered 8 trigrams furnace. The armor on their bodies was too strange, and it actually blocked the flames. They weren't injured, and they were calm and peaceful as they disappeared into the fog of the stone furnace. Only when everyone couldn't see them did the 5 people's expressions become serious, and they weren't as domineering and powerful as before. One of them said, "The ancestors of our families have been guarding the end of this branch path of evolution all year round, paying attention to the movements of the fallen immortals, and also watching over the abnormalities in the world of the living. We're in a bitter and cold land, and we live in a chaotic world. This is the heavens' compensation for us, and we've endured until now. Our contributions and hard work are great. This is what we deserve." The opportunity for 5 great divine kings to undergo rebirth is only an insignificant gift, and it's far from enough. I hope the elders in our families can obtain even more, and the elders of the influential families can all make breakthroughs. This was their conversation, and they communicated with soul light. Outsiders couldn't hear them, or else it would trigger waves that would sweep the sky like a waterfall of stars, and it would form a storm that was like a level 108 hurricane in the world of the living. Above the heavens was the heavens. Some ancient influential families like them resided at the end of the world of the living, and they were related to the heavens. If outsiders understood, then they wouldn't be shocked that the 5 of them were all great divine kings. This actually involved the compensation that the heavens gave to these families. Their black armor was extremely ancient, and it was worn by their ancestors. It was soaked in secret blood, and there was immortal blood, Buddhist blood, and even the ancient blood of divine birds and strange beasts. It was rather extraordinary. For a moment, in the raging flames, they were like immortal birds undergoing rebirth, and they wanted to obtain eternal life. Each and every one of them was covered in black armor, and even a black gold protective cover started to appear on their faces. Only their pupils were exposed, and they appeared extremely terrifying and transcendent. This time, we want to realize an exceptional transformation and refine an undying and indestructible body. Even if we enter the heavens one day, we'll still have the confidence to compete with the other races. One of them spoke, his tone incomparably resolute. "Amen, we've prepared for so long, and we have so many years of accumulation in our family, as well as the compensation that place gave us. The sacrificial offerings this time are enough." At this time, they carefully took out 5 special golden cosmos bottles, and there were unimaginable sacrificial objects inside. The 5 golden cosmos bottles had just been opened, and unimaginable secret power flowed out. There were actually waves of Tao laws flowing out, and it was accompanied by the sound of scriptures. We aren't doing this for the sake of sacrificing heroic spirits, but for the true sacrificial furnace. How much we offer is how much we can obtain. It's said that when a saint turns back and refines himself to the golden stage, only then can he step onto the ultimate path. However, it's not too late for a quasi-celestial venerable to turn back. At our great divine king realm, if we continue to refine ourselves, we can still transcend. We'll first refine ourselves back to the God realm, or even the mirror realm, and then borrow so many connate objects to return to the great divine king realm. When that time comes, who can fight against us? These words were very shocking. Generally speaking, it was enough to come here to undergo nirvana. That was a rare great creation. As for the 6-eared macaque clan, it was to let the descendants of the clan refine themselves from the saint realm to the golden body, so that they could realize the most powerful suppression and transformation process in history, just like refining the 9 transformations golden elixir. Chu Feng came here earlier for the sake of the Yang realm body as well. He wanted to refine his Yang realm saint physique to the golden body level, so that he could move freely in the sea and directly start to come into contact with all kinds of pollen to achieve rapid and super evolution. But now, someone wanted to realize this kind of refinement in the great divine king realm, and that was shocking. In fact, Chu Feng had always wanted to give it a try. He wanted to let his Yin realm body, the great divine king body, undergo a hellish refinement in this place to see if he could succeed. It was just that he had never been confident. He had never heard of anyone who could carry out this kind of near-death attempt. It was too absurd for the great divine king to refine himself to the God realm, or even the mirror realm. Logically speaking, it was quite impossible. However, he also believed that there must have been people who had walked such a path. Some time ago, when he came here, he looked up a large number of ancient books and saw some vague hints and obscure records. Although there was no direct evidence, he believed that perhaps there were old friends who had walked such a path. The celestial venerable had regrets, and there might be a chance to reforge himself after turning around. So many connate objects are enough for the 5 of us to use. We can turn around and return to the God realm, or even the mirror realm, and refine the true self-indestructible body to accumulate here before returning to the original great divine king body. We will use this as the capital and foundation to enter high heavens, and then we won't have to be afraid of competing with the most abnormal living beings. The 5 of them were whispering and conversing. Their confidence was increasing, and they were making preparations. Let's begin. With that sacrificial offering, it has opened up a path for us and drawn out part of the fire of life. Now it's time for us to intercept the opportunity and transform into a dragon and soar into the 33 levels of heaven. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.